A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen dinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop off the cork, have a glass of wine, touch they'll say I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
Woo! All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Open Bar number 89. We're almost into the 90s, MauLer. I can feel that.
Finally,
that magical...
the good decade.
Yeah. That's when all the great stuff happens, you know? It's like when things were still fun. It's when video games were still fun. I remember that much. But yeah, we'll get into that later tonight. But yeah, that magical 100 is almost within sight. We're almost on the home stretch.
Oh, we get there.
But welcome to everyone. And we've got quite a few things we're going to discuss tonight. MauLer is just itching to discuss Ghostbusters because he had a blast watching it today.
There's something shitty in the name. Apparently you're going to call me and tell me to watch those two fucking movies and like hours before. Everyone, yeah, let's continue. Let's just go. Let's do it.
Because I figured you'd at least seen Afterlife. And I thought, well, okay, you could put it on like 1.5 speed and just blast through.
I was a slightly happier man. There was a time where I didn't feel even slightly worse. I will say it's interesting to have it added into my library because I would have made reference to this movie 10,000 times since it came out had I seen it. I actually kind of regret not seeing it because I would have fucking torn it to shreds. But I can do that today, so it'll be all good.
Well, and the thing is, going forwards now, I have gifted you unlimited memes. You know, there's so much now with this movie that you can meme on. And it's mostly indirectly because of me,
though. I guess there'll be some memes showing. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, we've got a bunch of guests here. We should start bringing them in so we can discuss this wonderful stuff. First of all, this man is an expert on all things going on in the video game industry, and it turns out there's quite a lot going on right now, and it's mostly horrible stuff and lots of controversies. So he's going to advise us on all of it. It is the one and only Endymion. And
thanks for having me, guys.
No, pleasure to have you back on, man. And I was saying just before we started this, I appreciate the background. I would rather have seen Tifa and Aerith in their bikinis, but you know what? I'll make do.
I can change that right now if you want.
I will be okay with that if you want to, yeah.
Let me go.
We're always up for a bit of TNA on the open bar, so thank you.
I'll go look it up right now while we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
Anyway, while he's working on that, we should bring in the next guest. So, it's actually been a while since he's been on the open bar, but it's great to have him back. It is D-Day Cobra, a.k.a. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Welcome back again, man.
What's up, guys? I am happy you brought me in to talk about Star Wars being saved, and it's never been in a better place right now. I think that's what we're going to talk about, so I'm really happy. But yeah, pleasure to be here as always, and I'm sure we can find a few things to talk about throughout the day.
I think we should just about manage it, yeah. And yeah, we had your brother Ryan on last week, so you know we're just making our way through the whole Geeks and Gamers crew right now.
I'll try to bring the toxicity to match Ryan's. We'll see.
That's a tall order.
And there's the update to the background. So now the chat's very happy.
Perfect. Now, Endymion, I want you to just like duck down and
wrong side.
Just kind of go away.
Just wheel off to the left.
Yeah, I'll just talk the whole time like this.
Yeah,
and then we're okay.
Perfect.
Good.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Last of all, he had a few technical issues, and not to apportion blame or anything, but he's the reason that we were 3 entire minutes late for going live. But we'll see if he sorted out his webcam issues. It is GeorgeTheGiantSlayer, and he has.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. I am enjoying Endymion's background for as long as it lasts till Microsoft's new policies come in place and turn every girl to look like a guy.
Oh yeah. You were good enough to send me those policies earlier, and I perused them at my leisure, and it made for very interesting reading. But yeah, we could talk about that a little bit later because there's plenty to cover in the gaming sphere. But the first thing I think we should discuss a little bit is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and indirectly Ghostbusters Afterlife, because to tell you guys that lovely little story, I suggested to MauLer that it might be a good idea for him to watch Frozen Empire. And he said, sure, but I haven't seen Afterlife, so I'm going to go watch that first. And then he sent me a whole bunch of angry texts saying, I hate you. Why did you make me watch this terrible movie?
I feel I've been lied to. People told me this thing was good/okay.
So I feel like, yeah, we almost have to go back to the beginning with this before we discuss Frozen Empire. Just get all of MauLer's hatred and bile out for this previous movie. I guess a lot of us might have been suckered into that. Well, at least it's not Ghostbusters 2016 mentality when that movie came out, and thought, well, it's kind of inoffensive and it seems to be having fun, so I'll let this one slide. And I did it myself. I have to admit, I was fully caught up in it and gave it a relatively positive review, even though I pointed out a few issues. But looking back now, I can see how hollow and empty it was, and how much it was just relying on complete nostalgia baiting.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, the Harold Ramis scene was like, I mean, R.I.P. And so that they're pulling at your emotional heartstrings with that, but it basically was a bad attempt at Stranger Things season 1 and trying to make up for Ghostbusters 2016. And
I have a feeling Stranger Things has had like irreversible damage on everything.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm alone in that.
No, I think you're not wrong. I mean, I still think Stranger Things season 1 is absolutely fantastic, and then there's a lot of criticisms that you can have for the rest of the seasons. But
season 4 pulled it back. But yeah, like that whole like milking the 80s nostalgia mentality, it's permeated Hollywood, and it's so fucking played out now.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't. So like with going back to Afterlife, I mean, I've seen it one time. I don't remember a lot about it outside of the fact that I was justifying it and I didn't see Ghostbusters 2016. I'm never going to watch that movie because I'm not a psychopath. But I've never seen it, and I refuse to watch it. But obviously it was widely hated for all the right reasons. And, then they had Afterlife come out, and there was some good marketing. There were some good things surrounded with Afterlife. And I felt like I was never like saying it was the greatest movie ever, but I definitely let a lot slide in it. But a lot of people were really high on Afterlife afterwards. And I do think that a lot of that was because of just like, well, it's not Ghostbusters 2016, which happens a lot in our current climate of movies, which is totally understandable. But I think that's something that happened. That's why I haven't seen, is it Frozen? What's the new one?
Frozen Empire.
Yeah. I don't care.
I think, and I think if you watched it, you'd probably feel the same way. It really felt like, when you talked about people being high on that Ghostbusters Afterlife, it felt like the studio had listened to people to some degree. They'd listened to people who hated the 2016 version, who wanted a continuation of the original movies, and that's what they sort of provided. So it felt like a win for the fans. Even though it was a shit movie, it felt like a win. And so people did let a lot of things slide with that one. But you know what? I've kind of talked over MauLer because I guess he was the catalyst for this. And someone suggested here, can we get a short from the long man? MauLer, what is your feelings on this movie?
I guess I should apologize first. I've seen a lot of people in chat saying it was awesome, and it's like you're over exaggerating. You said, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you years ago when this came out to explain to you how fucking horrendous this movie was. That was my bad. Some movies I miss, I'm just not
we
there.
Needed you, MauLer. In our hour of need, where were you? You were being long there. Somewhere else.
Where do I even fucking begin, man? Like this, I adore the original Ghostbusters. Masterpiece, yes. One of the greatest movies of all time. Oh, fucking hell, it's so good. You can watch it a million times over. 2016, whatever. Bye. Trash. Like, we don't even need to talk about it. We all know what that is. Everyone seems to agree. Afterlife is just another version. It reminds me of the difference between Genesis and Dark Fate for Terminator, or the difference between something like Alien Resurrection versus Alien Covenant versus AVP2 Requiem. These are all different versions of like the worst movie you want to see in the franchise. Afterlife, I thought I was being trolled. I didn't understand why I was watching this at first, because Egon is now, we've come into the present. He is a recluse, absentee father who abandoned his family with nothing left but debt. They lost the business, the Ghostbusters, because ghosts stopped turning up. Apparently, they just don't happen anymore. And then they got booted from the firehouse, and they lost all their money, and nobody cared about them anymore. And then Egon stole everyone's equipment and abandoned them all. And then none of them talked to each other, and then he died helplessly and alone, with his plans essentially failing.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah.
Did you like at the end, MauLer, when the original Ghostbusters showed up out of nowhere with new proton packs, despite the fact that they'd already been taken and they were already in their uniforms, and there was no explanation for how they got there or how they knew what was going on or where they got assembled from?
I was already done with this. I was like, this is Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny. I don't give a shit if you want to turn my hero into a piece of crap. Like, I'm not interested. What I think is really funny, I think they tricked people with this. They're like, you see, he was only a terrible person to his friends and his family because he was so busy capturing ghosts. And then Ernie Hudson has a line of like, I should have called. It's like, why weren't all of you talking to each other? It doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Why aren't what world have they created where people wonder if ghosts are even real? What the fuck are you talking about?
You guys made the Empire, sorry, the Statue of Liberty walk down through the streets of New York. Like you're questioning whether ghosts are real.
I was watching this with Rags, and we thought we'd I was like, oh, are the first two non-canon? I don't understand what the fuck is happening.
It's the TFA effect where things that happened like 30 years ago are now so far off in the mythological past that people think that they're just made up.
They literally proved the afterlife is real, and apparently the world forgot. What? What are you talking? There's YouTube videos, there's news coverage. This was a huge event. It was a catastrophe. It was practically an alien invasion in New York. And you want to tell me people like, I've never heard of that. And then in the movie, there's a line where it's like, you didn't hear that? She's like, it happened 20 years before I was born. I was like, nobody wrote that. You're not fucking serious that anyone wrote that fucking line.
That would be the biggest moment in human history if that ever actually happened.
Yeah, it's like World War II happened 40 years before I was born, but I still know that it happened. You know?
I'm not going to take this to a political discussion, but I will just say, in light of recent years, it's pretty obvious that the world can be convinced of things that are not true really quickly. We have seen this, and that is my argument. I'm not justifying the movie, but it has made me look at that and go, wow, the power of information and misinformation is pretty astonishing.
You understand? The ghosts would be in the fucking curriculum. They
I
would
know,
tell
I
us
understand
about
that.
how if you die with unfinished business,
but
you might get captured in the
Jeremy makes a
afterlife
point,
by
though.
some fucking nerds trying to make a business.
I bet you're forgetting TikTok attention spans. Come on, like 8 seconds. They're gonna forget what they had for lunch, let alone what happened.
The writing's so fucking lame. They're just like, yeah, ghosts just like stop turning up, I guess. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
How can you?
Yeah.
I think it should have, outside of the legacy characters in Frozen Empire, I really think it should have been called like Ghostbusters. Men not need apply. I mean, you had the old guys who they brought on simply for the fact they wanted to get Gen X butts in the seats. The girl who was quirky in Afterlife, you know, she's got a whole big heart, bigger brain, a little odd. All of a sudden, she becomes this girl boss Karen and like a MacGuffin machine. It's like,
well, I guess, I guess this is a good opportunity to then just go straight into Frozen Empire, because, man, like you talk about showing not tell, or sorry, telling not showing, which is the way you're not meant to do it. But this movie is a classic example of that. There's so many bits of dialogue which are just straight up like, as you know, Billy Bob, this thing happened in the previous movie, and then just literally recount the events of the previous film to someone who was in it. Like, obviously you're just telling us that so that the audience can get brought up to speed, but it's so clunkily done. And then there's a bit where they're in front of the mayor because, how do I even describe this? They've been catching ghosts in the middle of the street, right? And you know how the Ghostbusters in the previous movies, they would just go into a hotel or whatever. Yep. And, you know, there's a comedy scene where they kind of trash the entire ballroom trying to catch this Slimer, you know, and they cause a lot of damage, but they get the job done. in this, they're just straight up driving down the street at high speed with 2 children in the back of their car who are armed with proton packs, who are just firing their proton packs wildly across the street, hitting buildings, blowing out windows, hitting cars. And it's fine. It's in the world of this movie, that's considered acceptable behavior. And there's really no repercussions apart from the fact that the mayor's kind of pissed at them.
Yeah, I was just
the
reading the plot
repercussions in the
synopsis
first
of this
movie, where a very reasonable cop says that you destroyed property, you endangered lives, you've been using laser technology that we have no idea how it works. And then she picks it up and turns it on and points it at him and says, "You can't stop me from using this." And her mum has to stop her from killing the cop.
Yeah.
Is Frozen Empire better or worse than Afterlife? It is. It's better than Afterlife.
Really? Oh, I didn't.
Because because you know how
MauLer didn't even let me finish the question before he said better.
Wow.
Well, see, when you think about Afterlife, right? It straight up just copies everything from the first movie. You know, the demon dogs, Gozer, like the assembling the team, getting the proton pack, like the Ecto One, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's all just bringing in everything. So it's
that was in the first all over again.
It's
whereas this one,
what the fuck did they do to Egon? Why was everyone not fucking pissed at that? I can't believe
Egon's like Han Solo, basically. Just this one, weather, no one likes him.
Yeah, this one, there's a new story at least. It's not a very good one, but it's at least new. They're not just straight up copying the first movie.
Right. I think some films just are done so well, like the original. I mean, I enjoyed the second, but I don't think it needed a franchise.
Ghostbusters.
I love Ghostbusters 2 unapologetically. It's not great, but I love it.
I enjoyed it.
I like it. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, I love it. It's but Ghostbusters is almost like any other franchise where it's like I never wanted to see more. I was never asking for the next phase of this as a fan, even before like everything fell apart in Hollywood. Like I was never like, I need another Ghostbusters in my life. Like it was so well done that there was just no need to go back. And of course, now we see where we are with that.
I kind of agree and disagree with that in the sense that I agree the first one was so well done, you're not really going to top it. I think there was a lot of potential there to explore different ideas of, different kinds of ghosts, different enemies, different views of the afterlife. Like what are the wider repercussions of something like this going to be? Like, is this something that's going to take place in different parts of the world? Are there going to be like ghost sightings elsewhere? What does things like the government think about stuff like this? Like you've suddenly got like ghosts are now a threat that have to be combated. You could do a lot with it potentially, but I didn't want to see what they've done here, where it's like essentially a story entirely about the next generation with no passing of the torch. Like the previous Ghostbusters are still just kind of there, but the movie hasn't decided whether they need to like go away now and pass on the torch to the next generation. They're just kind of in that senior position now. I would have rather had like a third Ghostbusters movie, I don't know, at some point in the 90s when the original cast were alive and they were still young enough to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
But the endless delays just killed
it. In their outfits in fucking Afterlife, it looks so awkward. The camera's just like, there they are, and they're like, hello, we're here now. Well, look, this is our uniforms and these are our gadgets. Listen to the sounds.
Well, I like the way that you were taking it, Drinker, that exploration. Like, what is actually happening with the fact that they're, busting all these ghosts? Does it impact the world in some way? I mean, by somebody putting them all away. But I mean, what's going to be next? I mean, are we going to get the legacy characters next? They're going to die, and this young crew's going to have to go bust their ghosts.
They're trying for elements of that, right? There's like one scene between Ray and Winston where they're talking about the fact that they're getting old, and Winston says to Ray, "Is this how you want to spend your golden years? You're supposed to be relaxing. You're supposed to be retired now." And, Ray says to him, "No, this is important to me. This is how I want to spend the rest of my life." Fine. Like scenes like that are good, but like it's just plonked in there in the midst of all this other stuff. And it's not enough to give us that sense of like, these guys are now the old generation that are moving on. You needed a movie essentially centered around that. You needed a third Ghostbusters film featuring the original cast, but like them as older men who are getting ready to retire and realizing they can't do this anymore. They need to, either leave it behind or become like, managerial types. They're overseeing it, and they've got a younger generation who are going to take over. They needed to do that, but they've never had that linking movie. And so you've just got this weird halfway house where it's not properly fleshed out what their status is.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of the heart is missing without Reitman and Rain. Just not there for me.
It's just I'll sound like a broken record, but there's once in a moon we're gonna get Karate Kid fans that are gonna pick up the torch and make Cobra Kai, but that's just so rare. Like going back to these franchises, it's people that don't have passion for it. They don't care. It's just a paycheck. It's just a try to update it for, if you want to say it, critical drinker, modern audience. Yeah, like that's really almost, that's the heavy majority of times that they go back to these franchises that were once great and once popular is for all the wrong reasons. And you get that anomaly out there like Cobra Kai, but this is it's the literal definition of a cash grab almost every time.
It's probably why I avoid all those movies. There's just no point to them anymore for me. I just don't want to see rehashes anymore. Yeah, I just move on. There's only two movies this year I want to see. I want to see Monkey Man because it looks cool.
Oh yeah, I
want to see like Deadpool and Wolverine, I guess, because I have to. And that's really it, pretty much. There's nothing else I'm really that excited about this year to watch.
And this year in general is a really bad year. I mean, there is almost nothing to look forward to, especially some of the big tentpole movies. There is not much this year.
And TV shows to look forward to.
It's 90% sequels this year, so yeah, there's not.
And then when does Romulus come out?
That's later this year. Okay, I'll see that too.
That's probably in the fall, isn't it?
Yeah, that looked interesting, at least.
That's Fede Alvarez, right? That's the guy that did Evil Dead, the reboot, I think.
I'm not sure.
I know, like we talked about this on FNT a few times, but I mean, there legitimately there's an argument that there might not be $1 billion film this year. I mean, I know Deadpool Wolverine is one that's probably, but that's a rated R franchise that's never hit $1 billion up to this point, and considering the current state of superheroes, I'm not sure.
I have a feeling that Deadpool Wolverine might be like the biggest success for them since probably No Way Home. Maybe
it's not going to hit $1 billion though.
No.
Like
you don't think so?
Be lucky. I think it might get to 700, maybe 800 million. But it's not going to do $1 billion.
Not with it being rated R. And I love Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. He is iconic. He's one of the best castings of all time. And even in bad movies, he's enjoyable. It's not like he's a box office juggernaut. I
mean, for me at least, the way I'm looking at it is that the teaser for Deadpool and Wolverine was the highest watched teaser or trailer of all time. Something like that.
There's a lot of social media fluff with that though, and the way that they approach it. I mean, didn't they say the Acolyte was like the most didn't break all the records?
Definitely disliked that much. It's like
all the wrong records.
If it's a tight movie that's an hour 50, 2 hours, that sort of thing, and it's really like funny and punchy and good action scenes, then I could see people repeat watching, which is going to be key if they want to make shit tons of money.
I mean, I heard that in Deadpool Wolverine, allegedly Henry Cavill's playing a variant of Wolverine. That was like a big rumor.
I saw that rumor. I don't know if that's confirmed.
It's like Craven coming out.
You guys can you guys just stop like fucking around with Henry Cavill? Like I'm sick of him getting all these shitty little cameos and things. Just
like Argyle
used.
Yeah,
Argyle. Fuck that movie. Jesus. I was going to say as well, like, I was talking there about like the passing of the torch kind of movie with the Ghostbusters and the fact that they're getting old now. The one thing that stuck out for me was this picture of Ernie Hudson, which is just bonkers. This man is 78. Wow, 78 years old.
That is.
I hope I look half that good, man.
The dude is in better shape than any of us, and he's twice our age.
78. I saw this going around on social media the other day. That is insane. Nothing but respect. Holy crap. 78.
Yeah, good for him, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But what I loved is he gave an interview the other day where they asked him if he saw the new Crow trailer, if he's going to see the film. He's like, nope. He's like, not going to do it. He goes, after what happened to Brandon, I don't watch anything.
That's fair play. I was going to show you as well. There's, I just wanted to provide a point of comparison between him and the other Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
Like Dan Aykroyd is like 3 times the size that he was in the original movie.
Yeah.
Like, and you really notice it in this film. Like there's a point where he rides on like a motorbike to get to some library or whatever, and you see him getting off the bike, and he is fucking enormous. Like, because up until that point, he's just been sat in a chair and he's been shot from like the chest up, so you couldn't really see much of him. But then you see him there, and you realize, oh damn, Dan's a big boy these days.
Yeah.
And then Bill Murray looks like he's been dead for about 10 years.
Yeah, he looks like the life's been sucked out of him.
Who never wants to be in any of these movies.
He looks
he
looks like Steven Seagal. And you know how they start shooting his like D movies in the Eastern European area where he just sits in the chair and he just like wails.
Yeah, I saw him do a fist fight in a chair. Like he was literally sat down for the fight.
He can't move.
Bill Murray's one of those guys, like I've always said this about like Hulk Hogan, where like Hulk Hogan's been 50 for like 60 years. You know what I mean? And like Bill Murray, it's like Bill Murray's been 60 years old for the past 30 or 40 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine.
Yes,
I've been old my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be bad genetics, I suppose, but yeah, clearly doesn't look after himself the way that Ernie does.
No.
Man, yeah, it's really interesting. But you can definitely tell in this movie that he could not be fucked with doing this. Like, I think they probably had Bill for 2 days maybe, because he's in like a couple of scenes and that's it. He's in one scene that just comes out of absolutely nowhere where he's just throwing pens at someone, and the finale where he clearly has no clue what he's supposed to be reacting to.
It feels so obligatory. The door opens and he's like, "I'm here too," and they're like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah. And not even acting like Venkman. Like he just acts like Bill Murray reading off a teleprompter.
This is just like the first one.
Anymore.
When they turn up, it feels odd, like in terms of just like, oh yeah, there they are, I guess. And I thought it was funny too, right? Like the reasoning behind it is she gets put in jail for like nearly killing people, the main girl, and then she has one phone call. She doesn't call her mother to say I'm in jail. Instead, she calls fucking Ray in the hopes that he tries to hang up on her like 3 times.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I will say as well to gather the team and go out there and help her. I was like, the fuck.
There's such a problem with characters in this movie as well, in that there's about 500 different people in this film, and you can't. Yeah, it's way overstuffed. None of them get any development because there's just no time. There's not enough time with any one character to give them anything. The only one that gets any sort of an arc is Phoebe, and she's kind of annoying as fuck because she's a child who wants to go out shooting ghosts with proton packs, which are deadly weapons, and acts all pissy when she gets told she can't. And the only reason of that is like her totally irresponsible parents get reprimanded by the mayor and forced to stop her because they think it's totally fine for her to go out on missions like this up until that point. And then she has her weird like quasi love affair with the lady ghost.
So it's like
really... I know, but then
gay for the ghost, basically.
It was weird. What did you think about Paul Rudd? It's like I usually enjoy Rudd, but I just think he's done the same thing for 20 years. And then he took
he's a non-entity in this film, just like everyone else. He doesn't really have any purpose in the story. He's just there for a handful of scenes to be Paul Rudd.
Because I looked at them together, it was very clear they're just trying to sap him of any charisma possible, anything that can make things funny, any kind of charm. But he's often the butt of the joke, pushing him around, making fun of him, telling him to shut up. Like he's the awkward one who talks too much. There's one moment I thought was okay, was when he had to man up and actually be a dad. And he said, like one line that was okay, and I was like, "Oh, this could be interesting." And then it was sort of like undercut, and then we moved on and didn't do it again.
It's funny. I was watching that exact scene that you're referencing there, and just watching it, thinking they're going to make a joke at the end of this. They have to. They have to undercut it with humor to make him seem like a fucking goofball, as they always do with any male character. And sure enough, it came.
Well, the only. They only have a fucking play at having like a screenplay that's relatively interesting, right? Like I think she's shouting at her mum and he says, "You don't speak to her like that. That's your mother. That's your family." And then she says, "You're not my family." And then it's like, that's the perfect setup. Now give it. You've been technically a guardian to her for what, 2 years, 3 years? I think it's been since the of the movie. But the problem was, because the writers suck ass, it may as well have been yesterday. With the way the movies work, you can't tell. Like, there's just been no development, nothing interesting, other than the fact that all the actors all had fucking hit puberty. Like, they've all growth spurred like crazy, which is another problem that Stranger Things had to deal with. It's like the actors don't wait for you. You have to get going. So, yeah, watching it, there was some characters, I was like, oh, I guess they didn't bring back podcasts. Because I was watching it with a friend, and he was like, no, that's him. And I was like, oh shit! and it's funny too, because there's probably someone listening be like, "What do you mean bring back podcasts?" Like, that's his name. It's his name because he runs the podcasts. He's the most superfluous fucking character in the entire. He's in both movies.
I mean, that's a pretty low bar. Is that so many of them?
No, it's a high bar to be the most superfluous.
Well, I mean, I suppose, there's just so many candidates. Like, who's the black girl again? What's her name?
No idea.
I can't remember anyone's name.
Yeah, like, she's there just because she's available, I suppose, but she gets fuck all to do.
It was so funny when she's trapped in that little box and the big spooky demon has arisen and she's like, oh no, and the music's like, oh god, and then the door just opens and there's the black girl being like, I'm here now, I'm gonna save the day, and she starts it, and then the girl is like, no, and you think she's gonna die, but then the thing doesn't kill her, it just walks off. I was like, okay, I have no idea what the point of that was.
Well, where did the Bollywood guy come in from all of a sudden? The firebender. I can't remember his name. Just like, I'm like
he's literally just a guy who wants to sell some family heirlooms to Ray, because Ray collects like occult material, obviously, and this guy just wants to make a few bucks. And it turns out one of the objects that he sells to Ray is like a magical prison for a fucking ancient demonic god that almost destroyed the world. And he just didn't even know about it. Like, it belonged to his grandmother, which apparently she never told him about any of this stuff. And he's like, oh, I'll sell it to you for $30, and that's it. And
yet another fucking character, as if we needed more.
And it just seems like they're shoving so many personalities into it that there's absolutely no breathing room for anybody to actually stand out.
They've got too many groups, right? Because they've got the original Ghostbusters, so there's 3 of them still alive. Fucking Janine's in the movie as well for some reason. Like, she gets fuck all to do. So there's 4 of them. There's Paul Rudd and generic blonde woman. I can't remember what her character is even called. So they're on a kind of parenting arc, but they do absolutely nothing anyway. You've got about 12 kids who are in this, who are just doing various bullshit things. You've got teen lesbo girl who has a love affair with the ghost thing. Like, that's, I guess, the closest thing you've got to a protagonist in this movie. And you've got Indian fucking fire warrior guy who's actually just wanting to pawn off his family heirlooms, dude, as well. It's just too much.
And a horrible villain. That villain was just...
Well, it was just nothing. It was a nothing burger.
Boring. Nobody cares. It's just, I'm Iceman. Oh, you got me. Never mind.
I feel like it's writing by corporate committee. It's like, we need the superhero guy in here. Somebody go grab an Indian. You know,
it feels like
it was the dude from the Eternals, right? Like, it was the dude from the Eternals, and I guess I don't know if that's why they picked him. I don't get it.
But do you remember him when they were doing the Eternals red carpet, when they were doing those junkets across the world? I used it in a video clip once. He was like, this movie is going to save
lives.
Yeah.
Save lives. Yeah.
But he's so miscast in this role as well, because he's meant to be like the latest in a lineage of fire warriors that have protected this magical item throughout like 1,000 years or whatever, right? And the humor is derived from the fact that he's got this mystical power, but he's kind of a douchebag. And in that situation, you probably want to cast like some scrawny little actor or some guy who's out of shape, because it's going to be a contrast. Like, he's physically weak, but he's got this spiritual power in him that he's eventually able to harness. Instead, they cast this dude who's like he's fucking jacked. Like, obviously, you know what he looked like from the Eternals. He was enormous, and he still is. So he's just so out of place in a role like this. It's weird. It's a weird choice.
Well, now, again, I'm curious. So everybody loved the first Ghostbusters. I think that's without a question. Yep. Second one. Does everybody at least like the second one on the panel?
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah,
I made honestly, a fucking video about how much I liked it.
Ghostbusters ever. Like, it's always been something for me growing up. It's never been a part of my upbringing, so I've never had that connection to it.
Okay.
So for me personally, like, it's kind of like a non thing for me.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm just being honest.
No,
I remember how many films Ghostbusters the original spawned. Didn't we get? You got like Beetlejuice eventually, Shaun of the Dead, Burbs. I mean, it did a good job.
It did. It inspired
part of our
a lot.
history, and I really like the second one.
There's a lot of criticism for the second one, which I think I totally understand. And it's obviously not as good as the first one, but I don't know if it's nostalgia. I haven't seen Ghostbusters 2 in a long time. I've seen Ghostbusters 1 fairly recently, but I absolutely adore Ghostbusters 2 though. And then obviously, 2016. Do we even want to recognize that as one? I don't. And then you get Afterlife, and now MauLer's favorite, Frozen Empire.
Well, you know what? Frozen Empire was I could have taken or leave.
That's right. Yeah. It's Afterlife that you hate.
You know what's weird,
you're so mad about, and that's Drinker's fault, by the way. So take your anger out on him. He's the one that recommended it.
I have a few times already.
This. I didn't fucking recommend it. I just said we should cover it. This movie ain't getting a Drinker recommends. You can bet your arse on that. You know what's? It's scary though, because this is clearly like set up that they're already putting in the building blocks for a larger universe. That there's like they're working on like bigger containment units and like more people are getting involved. It's becoming like part of a bigger organization. It's like they're trying to Marvelize this. You know, it's like we had 2 Ghostbusters movies. Like the first one, like what, 1984, then 1989. So 5 years between them. Then we didn't have anything for like 17 years. And then we get Afterlife and then this. It's like now I feel like they're going to shit out a Ghostbusters movie every 2 years.
That's the thing,
they're not going to stop.
I would have been a little bit more on board with the concept had we entered a world this much time later where we'd reacted and moved on from the fact that ghosts are real, afterlife is a thing. Like, how would this affect the whole world? You don't have to talk to it about it that much, but at least you incorporate it. It sounds like we TFA'd it, as someone mentioned earlier, with the whole, like, wait, the Force is a myth. Luke is a myth. It's like, it's all a myth. It's like the Ghostbusters have fucking disappeared in memory, and people don't even know that ghosts are actually a thing.
This is the thing that annoys me about all these like, creative remakes or whatever. They all just take the same movie and do it again. Like TFA is just A New Hope again. Jurassic World is just Jurassic Park again, but worse. But same thing here
that's
too.
The significant thing, but much worse, much fucking worse.
Yeah, like I remember when I was watching Jurassic World in theaters, like whenever that came out, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I actually like once I started realizing, like, wait a second, this is the same movie, and then I just started thinking to myself, like, is this scene gonna happen next? And then that scene happens, like it's exactly the same movie. They just change it. Like instead of having the kids in a Jeep, they're in these like glass sphere ball things that like go across the grass or whatever. But it's the same movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It even like kind of ends the same. Like they see the giant T-Rex and everything, but then obviously they have to subvert expectations. But it's what's happening here. It's like they just keep doing this. And this is why like all these movies just seem so boring to me, because it's just there's nothing new happening.
Well, my point
I hate when they throw in iconic things with zero context and turn them into a joke. Like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from the first Ghostbusters movie, like a super memorable scene, like something you never would have seen coming, and it's awesome how it's shot.
Yes,
it's terrifying but comical at the same time. Then with Afterlife, they've got the fucking tiny little marshmallow men who are just like goofing around, and they play no real part in the movie, and they're back again. There's more of them. Like
they're supposed to be really, really fucking hilarious, and all the kids will love them. You can merchandise the hell out of it. It's just like, what the fuck?
I don't even understand how they function. Like, because they seem to enjoy destroying themselves. Like, why? Like, there's one who's got his arm in a fucking mincer, and it's just laughing and smiling. It's like, arguably, that's existentially horrific. But you know, okay, fine.
It really does come down to the people involved individually. Like last year, my favorite movie by far, not even close, Godzilla -1.
Hell yeah.
If you would have told me that Godzilla -1 was going to hit me on such an emotional level, a Godzilla movie, I would have been like, yeah, no. And it's because, you know, like they could have went with all the different tropes and things that they told their own story within, you know, obviously an iconic character and, you know, name. And it really just comes down to there's just a lot of lazy people involved with the creative process right now, and they don't know how to do anything. Jurassic World, for instance, when I heard the idea for Jurassic World, I was completely all in. Oh, wow, they're going to do the theme park element of Jurassic Park and all this. Oh, that's cool, because I'm one of the idiots that likes Jurassic Park 3. All right, I'm one of the 5 people on the planet that likes Jurassic Park 3.
You like the raptor talking to the guy in the plane?
Alan. I like Jurassic Park 3.
That will live in infamy in Hollywood history.
So much. I don't like Jurassic Park: The Lost World that much, but I do like 3. But so yeah, I was totally all in on Jurassic World in terms of the concept, and then I saw it, and then much like you, it's just like there's nothing here.
It's the same movie.
Yeah.
And honest, did you guys ever see what the original pitch was for Jurassic World? Like what they were originally going to do? It was going to be like a proper horror movie. They were supposed to have like human hybrid dinosaurs and stuff. Like, it was messed up. There's actual concept art you can find online of this movie that didn't happen, obviously. And there's like actual like triceratopses that are like the size of buildings that are supposed to be in the movie, but they have like human limbs and stuff. And they were like
going down the Alien Resurrection road, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like weird.
And then they like scrapped it. And I was like, that sounds more interesting to me at least than let's just make Jurassic Park again, but worse.
Who directed Jurassic World? Do we remember? It wasn't
Colin Trevorrow.
Was it Trevorrow?
Yeah, that guy, he was supposed to do episode 9, right?
No,
he didn't do it.
Well, Trevorrow did the second one and the third one, I thought, of Jurassic World. I didn't know he did the first one.
I'll tell you.
I know a lot of people because of Colin Trevorrow, because of his work on like episode 9, and then he got fired from it, and then he was really connected to the fans of Star Wars. Who was it? Jurassic World?
It was Trevorrow, yeah.
It was Trevorrow? Okay. Yeah. And so he significant those Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movies got so much worse. Like the second one was awful. And then the third, is there 4 of them now, or is there only 3 Jurassic World movies? I can't even remember. There's 3
keep
total.
fucking making them.
Yeah, because they all make $1 billion. They're our current day Transformers movies now, where they just keep making $1 billion no matter how bad they are.
I think it's because Jurassic Park in general is like a franchise. They have like a niche that's untapped, right? Dinosaurs, like not many movies deal with that stuff, so they just have it. They have that on lock.
Yeah.
So even if they're bad, it's like, where else are you going to watch a movie about dinosaurs eating people?
It's so funny though how it's progressed beyond the pretty thought-provoking ideas and the moral questions of the first movie to, isn't it just cool to see dinosaurs eat people? That's literally all you had. Like, let's put dinosaurs in more and more unusual situations.
And this is the part that frustrates me, is you have all these like legacy franchises, Jurassic Park, Ghostbusters, whatever, and they don't seem to do anything interesting with them. They just sort of like, let's just take the same thing but do it again.
I'm holding out for dinosaurs. I'm holding out for dinosaurs in space, man.
You're creatively bankrupt. Put them against the Fast and the Furious.
That's what I was gonna say. The next Fast and Furious, I need to see Dominic Toretto in space on a dinosaur, running from one of the cars in the movie. Like I have it. Yeah,
T-Rexes are strong, but family's stronger.
Yeah, I mean they're already trying that, right? With some kind of like cross promotional stuff. Remember, like I don't know if anyone saw the last Transformers movie, Rise of the Beasts.
No,
it ends with the G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, right? And I'm a G.I. Joe fan, but I have not
like,
seen
you know
it.
what? Why not? At this point, do it. Like who cares?
Yeah,
I want to merge it with Star Wars. Fuck it, I want to see a raptor eating fucking Rey.
I'd rather see a G.I. Joe's Transformers movie than just another, rehash of what's happened before. Like just something at least interesting, something new.
Yeah, I personally do want to see Fast and Furious with dinosaurs. Like I do want to see this. And then go ahead and just
Ghostbusters.
Go ahead and just do a deep fake of Paul Walker. Just bring Princess Leia into it while you're at it. Like just whatever. The Fast and Furious fans will accept it. Who cares?
You know what disappoints me? I remember, you guys remember back in the day, they were actually considering like a 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover movie. Like that could have actually been funny. Like just things like that could have been more interesting than like what they're doing now. But
well, as George was saying, and we're all aware of it, all of these movies are made by committees at this point. Like there's no ability to take risks. And that's the beauty of what we saw with movies in the 80s and the 90s and even in the 2000s, where there's some really bad movies. Of course there was. There were some really damn good movies along the way. And that's the creative freedom that you give people. Sometimes it's going to be absolutely terrible. Sometimes it's going to be absolutely awesome.
I think it's also
right now,
I think as well, like you look at the budgets back then, they were minuscule compared to movies nowadays. So they could afford to take more creative risks back then. There just wasn't as much at stake.
Yeah.
But even the bad movies, you could tell that people put their heart, their passion into it. It wasn't just like, okay, copy and paste. Let's push this out. I mean, how did we end up?
How charm.
They did.
You know, like
they were cult classics.
Well, the example I saw just recently was Roadhouse. The original movie with Patrick Swayze is goofy as fuck, and it's over the top and silly but it's got a real 1980s charm to it. You could tell they had a lot of fun making that movie. With the new one, fucking zero fun was had with that. Apart from Conor McGregor, like he had a lot. He had like lines worth of fun with that movie. But yeah, apart from him, like it's just a designed by committee soulless remake that just never should have happened.
It's the same thing that I want with movies. The same thing that I want with video games because their budgets are overblown too. All these industries need to, like, in a sense, tone down like the budgets, but just bring up the writing and the creativity so we can get some new stuff in here, right? Like, one of my favorite movies of all time is Predator.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that movie because most horror movies you watch, right, it's usually about some weak little girl being chased by some kind of monster, but Predator flipped it on its head. And it's like, what if we made a horror movie, but all the weak little final girls are like 6'5" muscle bound military men? You know, like, that's amazing. That's such a great idea.
You set them up, like, put them in a mission and show how badass they are. Like, these guys decimate a fucking army that's put in front of them. And suddenly they're helpless in the face of this killing machine. You know,
and the scene in that movie that always makes you cringe is when he's shaving and then he cuts himself.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
This guy doesn't need fucking shaving foam. He just goes at it dry.
and I've talked about this recently, but it really is as simple as getting it back to small, centrally focused stories. I think that there was obviously a time where your cinematic universes were very attractive to audiences when you actually had some creative people involved with it and they were doing it right. But I think people are completely done with the cinematic universes. They're completely done with the CGI fest movies. Yeah. And you see stuff I've talked about Five Nights at Freddy's a lot from last year, where I never played Five Nights at Freddy's. I went to see it just to kind of out of curiosity, and I ended up really enjoying the movie. It's not a great movie, but it was solid. It was enjoyable. It had a lot of practical effects in it, and it felt authentic. And if that would have been a CGI fest, I would have been like, this sucks. There's no life in it. There is something to be said about practical effects, and that automatically gets your budget down, but it also requires probably a little more work involved, but it helps with your budgets and you can make more money. And people
requires time more than anything. It requires time.
Like my favorite movie from last year was John Wick Chapter 4, because it's just like no nonsense, fun, lots of choreographed stuff. And that one scene where it becomes like Hotline Miami, and it's from like above, and he has the shotgun with like the dragon fire rounds, and he's just like,
that was a great scene.
It was a cost-effective movie.
Don't get MauLer started.
I was going to, just before MauLer goes, because I know this will be long. To use the example you used, the Endymion Predator, right? The budget for that was $15 million. $15 million. Now, I know in today's money, that's probably more like 40, but it's still tiny compared to your average big budget action movie. That was all accomplished.
How much was the Predator? The one that was really bad. What was the budget on that one?
It's probably much insane.
Higher.
Probably
tells you everything. Inflation and all that. But yeah, budgetary, it was 88 million. So not huge, but quite a bit more.
Well, they didn't have Arnold to pay.
Well, now how is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire performing at the box office? I haven't even looked, because I know Afterlife didn't make a ton. Like, it did good, but it didn't. I think there was some questions.
It said that Afterlife made 200 and Frozen Empire is at 72. I think it said.
Okay,
something like that.
Yeah.
But the budget for Frozen Empire was 100 million, and it was lower for Afterlife, like 70 million, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be the question: is, are they going to keep shitting out these Ghostbusters movies? And that movie's going to need to make at least somewhat of a decent profit for them to continue on.
Just it was apparently at the high end of expectations for its opening weekend. So 45 million haul.
Okay.
Yeah, for its
Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
you're gonna get another one probably.
Yeah.
Well, if it's overperforming, like, unless it takes a massive drop in its second weekend, then I would imagine it could be spawning a sequel.
Like, I'm not gonna pretend I know a lot about Ghostbusters, but when I look at it, to me, it feels like if you made that into a TV show, like some kind of Stranger Things-esque kind of thing, and you had time to actually learn the characters and stuff, it could become something huge if they did it that way, maybe. But I mean, if you want to keep it as
you
movies,
could do a bunch of things. You could easily have a TV show set in like a different city, like fucking Chicago or something, like a branch of the Ghostbusters there who have to go on a different mission each week to kind of catch a ghost or figure out how it's how it's being created or something. Like you could have a sort of supernatural mystery element to it. There's a million things you could do. I just don't think they have the imagination to do stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, like it's kind of like how with Predator, like The Predator was not a good movie, but like Prey was pretty good, and that was that was just on Disney Plus right away. And now they're making another one. It's like codename Badlands, and it's like set in the far future. It's done by the same guy who directed Prey as well. And I think that's a good way of going about it. Make these lower budget things, but they're really interesting. It's another like franchise that I love is Evil Dead. And I thought Evil Dead Rise was fun. It wasn't really scary, but hey, and they released it in theaters and it made like way too like insane amount of money for what it cost them. And that's what
it was a weird movie because I feel like tonally it was like halfway between the Evil Dead series and a serious horror movie. Like, and I never quite got the sense of where it was trying to go. Yeah, whether you should be laughing at all this stuff or whether you're meant to take it seriously. So yeah, I really it was fine. Like I didn't have an issue with it.
Like the Fede Alvarez one, where like the chick has like she gets her like tongue split in half and the blood shooting at everything. Like I saw that in theaters and I loved it. This is awesome.
I mean, Ash versus the Evil Dead was fantastic. I loved that show. They just nailed the tone.
That's what I'm talking about, right? Like we need less of these big budget things. We need more creatively driven, smaller scale. It's far more interesting, right? Like even movies that I think back in the day that are like a really good example of this would like, let's look at the Cloverfield. What was it called? 10 Cloverfield Lane. And then there was the Paradox one. So Paradox, no one liked. It was just a mess. But 10 Cloverfield Lane, like that was I thought that was a great movie. And again, it's very small scale.
It was a good little thriller. It was just a terrible Cloverfield movie that didn't feel like it tied into it at all.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is right, like it's cheaper, it's like lesser stakes.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Like what we need more of in general, just across the board. It turns it's video games, movies, whatever, right? Yeah. It's just like it's crazy when I think about it. Like just in video game terms, like put it this way: when The Witcher 3 was made by CD Projekt Red, their budget was something like not even $20 million to make that game. Witcher 3. You look at Spider-Man 2. Its budget was $300 million.
Well over $300 million.
Sony spent more money making Spider-Man 2 than they spent money buying Insomniac games that made Spider-Man 2. Just tells you how wildly everything's out of whack now. It's insane.
Yeah. I want to talk about video games in a second, actually. I just wanted to do a couple of super chats because we got a bunch of $50 ones that came in, and I just wanted to do them just quickly because I appreciate the guys that were generous enough to send these. The first one was from Northern English Bastard, who says, "Dear Drinker, MauLer, and guests, instead of the Acolyte being described as Frozen meets Kill Bill, how about Finding Nemo meets Irreversible, or any other suggestions from the panel? Also, good to see George the Giant Slayer. Sorry, George the Giant Slayer on
Slayer.
Wow.
I didn't know
totally different direction. Are you like working for Black Girl Gamers?
Possibly. I'm probably going to get sued by them.
Don't worry, me too.
That's okay. I identify as a black girl during this stream, so we're good. We have the representation covered. It's all good, so.
I'm non-binary until I get off the stream, so it's
okay. Yeah, we need other descriptors for the Acolyte, like something meets something else. Like, I don't know.
Giant glow
Saving Private Ryan meets My Little Pony.
What I heard based on the leaks is that the Acolyte's supposed to be like Star Wars' version of Arcane from Netflix, the League of Legends show. If you watch that was like a big inspiration for it, apparently.
What about Harvey Weinstein's Madam Star Wars?
Teletubbies meets Schindler's List.
Yeah,
sure. Let's go with that.
I think that the Acolyte is going to be. Again, that right there. That's it. That's the win right there. That's the win.
Oh, it's the ultimate grudge match.
That's the win right there.
Sorry, I interrupted. Apologies.
I mean, it's a Black Panther meets Ghostbusters 2016. That's what the Acolyte is right there. I mean, if you saw that picture, like Mimology tweeted it out. He's like, this isn't Wakanda. This is Star Wars. It's like, hey. This is Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant's work. So
I mean, I straight up, and I thought I'd try this as a bit of a gag in my video, like when I was talking about the trailer, and it became like actually real. Where they had all the Padawans lined up for that opening scene, and I was like, I'll try and find a white kid amongst them, like a white male.
That's brilliant.
And there fucking none. It was like female, black, Asian, female, alien, and that was it. That's just like,
yep.
Okay, I get where you're going with that.
That's where we are, and it's sad that we're even at a point where we're hypersensitive about that stuff, because for all of these decades that we've all watched movies and played video games, we've never given a shit about the race or gender or diversity within any of these things. And now suddenly it's something that you're hypersensitive to, because all the creatives involved have told you from the outset that the only thing they're worried about is the diversity in the worlds that they're creating. And you're like, God,
it's because back in the day, characters were more than the color of their skin. Like recently, there was an article about Barrett Wallace from Final Fantasy VII. Drinker probably knows about this one. And how the guy said, like,
I responded to this, and I don't know if they blocked me or shut down their account, but one way or the other, I can't see the original.
Yeah, they're saying like, now. Final Fantasy deserves better than like Barrett Wallace being a black character, and it's like
no. What they said was, we need a black character that's not just a joke. Yeah, and I thought, like, motherfucker, that's what you took from Barrett from Final Fantasy, that he's a joke?
That's drove me nuts. It's like, Barrett's the kind of character that you want, because I think he's like I just made a video about it. Like I personally like connect to Barrett a lot, because like, he has a lot on his shoulders and he has to carry all the weight and everything. And the great thing about a character like that is that no one ever mentions in Final Fantasy VII that's like, oh, he's a black guy. Like, he just happens to be a black guy in this world.
Yeah, his worldview is like, he's a working class like laborer. That's the background that he came from, right?
Because he just happens to be a 6'5" black guy with a machine gun arm. It's fine.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the color of his skin, and it's like, that's all they fucking see. Yeah, when they look at him, and that's just their mindset. Like
that's all that matters when you watch or read or play something. It's like, it shouldn't matter if the character's interesting or has flaws. All that should matter is that you identify with them and what's basically skin deep, and that's about it. And that's why none of these things end up working.
Well, this is because
the Acolyte,
in the old days, whether it was, what do you call it, with films or television shows or video games, they all started with the story first, the character first. And then it didn't matter what it was. I mean, you said it perfectly. It didn't matter. Yeah. I was just started playing God of War Ragnarok, right? 3, because I had seen Drinker play it for a while. But then I read the other day, and I hope it's not true, because I had stopped. It says that at the end of the game, that Kratos spares Thor. It's like, we got to do better. Is that real?
Technically, yes, but there's more context to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you understand like what built up to that moment, it makes sense, and it's not a cliched like, you need to do better, Senator kind of line. It's much more deep and meaningful than that. So it's not preachy.
Good. I'm glad to know.
And there is some evolution with that. I mean, like, I greatly prefer the first 3 God of War games, especially God of War 3.
Oh
shit! You've got him going.
You're waking the beast. You're getting off the panel of that.
You don't like God of War 3?
Just go ahead and say whatever the fuck you want to say.
Are you serious right now? What's your problem with God of War 3?
I'm just tired, man.
Come on. I want to hear it.
No, I love God of War 3.
Okay. What's the problem? What am I missing here?
MauLer, what's your least favorite God of War? Out of like
it's probably one of the PSP ones. The
Ghost of Sparta,
maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, I like the more brutal version of Kratos, but from the evolution side of things and how they took that character, it all makes sense. So the Sweet Baby Ink stuff is, got people nitpicking every little thing right now, which I totally understand, but I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, I think God of War Ragnarok, for the most part, in terms of the whole Sweet Baby or SBI, if you want to call them, I feel like that one was probably the least ruined per se. Maybe I think Spider-Man 2, that's the one that got really messed up with their involvement so.
I played Spider-Man 2 for like 30 minutes and I got tired of I was like, why am I doing missions as Miles Morales when I could be just playing as Peter Parker? What the hell are we doing here?
And the worst part about that game is that Miles has nothing to do with the story until like 70% in.
And I don't have a problem with Miles Morales as a character. Like, I don't care. I do like upsetting. I like seeing people get upset on Twitter when Gary and everybody tweets that Miles Morales is Miles Morales and Peter
because
Parker
he
Spider-Man.
is Miles Morales,
100%, and they get so triggered over it. I liked Into the Spider-Verse, but it was like in this game, I'm just like, I don't like the fact that I'm having to play his missions and split the duties up and everything. Like, I just want to play as Spider-Man.
Well, here's a question for you, right? You don't have an issue with Miles Morales, but when you get that sense that they are trying so hard to push him as the Spider-Man now,
yes.
like they're trying to reposition him as the definitive Spider-Man,
yep.
does that make you actively dislike him because of what they're trying to use him
100%,
for?
yeah.
Yeah.
It does for me personally, because especially with the Insomniac games, if anyone out there who's watching has played it, I consider Spider-Man in 2018, that Insomniac game, to be like definitive Spider-Man. Like, that's a Spider-Man I wanted in the MCU. He's amazing. And then you play Spider-Man 2, and he just feels like he's character assassinated the entire way through, right? Suddenly he's weak. He has this line in the game. I mean, maybe Jeremy didn't get there, but there's a line in that game where he goes like, why would this city ever need me when they have you to like Miles? And you're like, are you serious? Like, you're the original Spider-Man. How could you write that and think that would go over well with Spider-Man fans? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
You just can't do that. And the thing is, like, the reason why Spider-Man 2018 is great, God of War 2018 is great, is because Sweet Baby Inc. started in 2018. So they would have obviously had enough time to influence those games because they came out the same year SBI was founded.
Right.
But then when you compare like the post games, like Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, to a lesser degree, SBI like just basically ruined Spider-Man 2 completely. And I'm terrified for the future of like Insomniac games, because I believe it's a narrative director at Insomniac. Her name is Mary Kenny. She has defended SBI, and she is the narrative director on Wolverine.
Oh.
So it's like 90% confirmed at this point that like Wolverine's going to be SBI'd through the roof, like 100%.
Yeah,
So
and as people find out more about what, like, there was I can't remember, we covered this on Geeks and Gamers, I can't remember the name. There was a game that that was exposed as a Sweet Baby Inc. detected game, and you went Unknown 9, yes. And you go over to the IGN trailer, and oh my goodness, it was getting absolutely annihilated in the comments because everybody's like, SBI detected. So hail Cabrutus for putting all that attention out there. But they're gonna learn real fast that if you put Sweet Baby Inc. involved in a lot of these other consultant companies, it's going to destroy these games.
This is what I was thinking. Like, sorry, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is, but how long is it going to take them to learn? We've seen how long it's taken Hollywood. But when I was doing research for this, I was like, you have Sweet Baby Inc., but then you have GamerX.org. They're now growing, besides, Black Girl Magic. And GamerX goes, we're here to consult to make sure that LGBTQ plus is is represented in every single game. So each one of these, how long is it going to take? Is it going to happen quicker than what happened in Hollywood?
From a financial point of view, I might suggest that it'll happen a lot quicker, because unlike a movie ticket, you can get a refund for your game.
Yep.
And the indie market in gaming is so substantially more established substantially than any other industry that we're talking about. There's a reason that Power World is so successful. Helldivers 2 is so successful. And there's just a massive market out there. Yes, AAA gaming is pretty shit these days. And as good as Nintendo has done in a lot of ways with Pokemon, there's been a lot of problems with that. And that's why something like Power World has taken off and has been really successful.
Nintendo just has a new position for an ESG person to oversee
for Pokemon. Yeah, they're paying like $250,000 or something like that. And so as that continues to go, that's just going to push more people towards Power World. So there's a market out there, whereas like in the movies world, there's nowhere to go for people. Like when you have shit, big Marvel movies, DC movies, Star Wars movies, there's not a lot of options to go. Like the indie gaming market is massive, and there's so many options out there. So people can walk away. So like something like Spider-Man 2, as he said, it's got like a $200 or $300 million budget. It ain't making that budget back. It's not going to do it.
This is the thing, is that like Insomniac, even though the game has like a 90 something on Metacritic, sold 10 million copies, even then they had layoffs because it still wasn't successful enough. And that tells you just how expensive video games have become. They're completely out of whack. Yep. And I've been telling this in all my videos to anyone who watches, is that you realize this more than ever before, is that the people like myself, you guys, everyone watching, we have more power than we've ever had. And they don't realize it at first, but if we don't have to buy anything that we feel attacks us or talks down to us. And it's amazing how the game industry has responded in kind and said, like, no, we're going to now double down. We're going to add more SPI and more this. It's like, go ahead. If you want to.
You're bringing about your own demise. And it's not just the gaming developers that are the issue in this. It's games journalists. Everyone's favorite format of journalists. And some of the stuff they've been coming out with in recent days is mind-boggling. There's one here from Jules Hardy, who's like she's like senior games correspondent for the BBC. She says, can we all agree that for round 2 of this, it can be the final purge of these kinds of gamers? It's 2024. I've been arguing about this for decades. Can we have a last full detox of these dudes so we can get back to the positive gaming community that we've been creating?
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're so headstrong that they believe that eventually we have to just give in and accept what they're making. But the truth is that we don't have to. And at the end of the day, what people need to realize is that the game companies work for the players. It's not the other way around. So, for example, like look at Rocksteady, right? Everyone went, we don't want Suicide Squad, and now it's failing. Mm-hmm. And it's their choice. If they want to keep making Suicide Squad SBI kind of games, go ahead. You know what's going to happen? You're going to get layoffs. You're going to fall apart. Whoa. And you know what games are going to do well? Like Jeremy said, Helldivers 2, they were like, no politics of any kind in our games. We're not doing it. And that was a big, controversy there because people were like, well, we want why can't I have a rainbow cape? Why can't I have this or that? It's like, do you realize, especially in a game that has friendly fire, by the way, do you realize how bad and toxic the community would get if people were allowed to have
start shooting?
Like, just imagine if Helldivers 2 had real world flags in it. Can you imagine a game of Helldivers? Half the team has Palestine flags on their back, the other half has Israel flags. Nothing's going to get done.
I want to wear the Welsh flag in that game. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you want the Isle of Man flag, MauLer.
I kind of suddenly want him to add an analysis. I'm on a team with somebody. I'm like, get the hell out of here.
It would be so toxic.
I want to do Cowboys.
It's like the Bucks would have nothing to do anymore. It's just like the players are all killing each other.
The Helldivers are just murdering each other the whole time because nobody wants to do anything. Right?
This is the thing as well. If the argument, because the argument is always like, oh, it's just a flag. Like, why does it bother you so much if it's there? And my argument would be, well, why does it bother you so much if it's not there?
Yeah.
Why is it so important to you?
I think the reason why it bothers people so much is because so many Western-made products, games, movies, whatever, they all cater to those demographics of people that get those things. So they're so used to having those things in their games, whether it's Call of Duty, really anything, doesn't really matter. They always have these flags and everything. And Helldivers is like, no, we're not doing it. We don't want to separate the player base. We don't want to be caught in any controversies, and you just have to respect that.
Yep.
And if you don't, go play something else. Like I remember people were trying to pit Halo against Helldivers, and the CEO of Helldivers was like, no, just play whatever you want. Who cares,
Yeah.
And Pal World, like they made so much money. There was articles coming out where they were saying like the studio genuinely doesn't know what to do with all the money they made. Like they have so much money. They're just like, we don't know what to do. This is insane. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that when you take away the politics, give people good products and don't talk down to them, you end up like a Helldivers or a Pal World.
Yes. Give the
talk down to people, you end
want.
up like a Suicide Squad.
Yeah. I love as well, like the pivot from this Jules person here, because Melanie Mack called her out apparently and said, you want to purge real gamers in favor of activists who can't hang in a multiplayer lobby without having a meltdown, or who can't navigate a single player game without yellow paint, shiny ledges, and the character telling them what to do. Jules then replies, nah, I want to purge the hate and vitriol from gamers who refuse to allow gaming to evolve and adapt as we humans are doing. Because evolving means agreeing with her on everything. Mm-hmm. I've got no problem with opposing viewpoints. Yes, you fucking do. But hate, violence, and aggressive behavior isn't okay in any realm that you live within. It's like, no, you just want everyone to agree with you, clearly.
Chasing the modern audience. And the modern audience, as so many people keep saying, it does not exist. They really think that there's this mystical audience out there of millions of players that will accept these things, when reality is the audience is what's always been there, the people that are here right now. And if you're not catering to them, you're going to go under. As simple as that. And even when she talks about whole, like, we want to get rid of people like you, like the toxic gamers, I want to remind people that Homeland Security has that branch called Take This. And they're essentially there for video game extremism, as they call it. That's what they combat against. And one of the things Take This actually wants to do is they actually want to make it so that they could essentially ban you. It's like what they're working towards. They want to essentially be able to ban you if you have wrongthink in the video game space, technically. So like if you say something wrong in like a party chat or like, between you and your friends, they should be able to like hear that and go like, oh, you said something we don't agree with. Say goodbye to your whole Steam library or your PSN or whatever you use, And it's like, that's what they're trying to go towards. Is the fact is like, if you won't fall in line, we are going to literally just take control of everything until you have no choice. And that's why I tell people constantly, you have to push back. You have to keep them accountable. Because if you don't, you think it's bad now?
Oh no, it's good.
It's
and like the further they get, the more they get their claws into this whole industry, the harder it's going to be to get them out.
Yep, absolutely. Look at video games just like 10 years ago, right? You could enjoy stuff, no problem. I remember one of the first games that probably had a prominent gay character, and it actually felt genuine somewhat, was when the first Last of Us came out, and they had the Left Behind DLC, and then it turned out Ellie was gay. And that was one of the first times. I remember there was a quote from Laura Bailey. She plays Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. This is like before that game even happened. And she said, like, I'm seeing in the industry around this time, you're going to see an explosion of, she said something along the lines of like diverse female-led talent. This was like over 10 years ago she said this. And those words have been prophetic. I mean, look at it now. Everything is like completely changed.
I mean, it's diverse and female-led. I think talent's maybe a bit of a stretch, but they got two of them. Right?
Yeah. And another thing that drives me nuts too is with video games in general, and you can put this towards movies and everything. I mean, let's look at Hogwarts Legacy, right? Like that game was the highest selling game of last year, sold 23 million copies, I believe it was, which is insane, by the way. But it was a Harry Potter game, and J.K. Rowling was attached to it. And if anyone who noticed, when you watch the Game Awards, you go to IGN, GameSpot, whatever, that all of a sudden it's Game of the Year time. Where's Hogwarts Legacy?
Nowhere to be found.
It doesn't even exist. And this is what I need people to understand, is that is what's going to happen to your game if you have wrong think. Then you don't exist. Even when it comes to award season, you're excluded from these like echo chambers, groups, whatever you want to call them, right? And it's just, that's why so many games these days have ESG, diversity, wokeness, if you will, right? Because if they don't have those things, then come award season and stuff, all the other people that believe in that stuff are going to go, oh, you're not one of us. Oh, you made a game that sold more than all our other games combined. Doesn't matter. You have wrong think, so you don't exist. And like that to me is insane, because Hogwarts Legacy was a great game. You're right.
Last of Us Part 2 got that Game of the Year though.
Of course it did, because you have two female-led characters. The only playable white man dies. You have a trans side character in Lev. I actually think Lev is a good character. I don't think it's a bad character at all. But I'm just saying, like, that's just like what's in there, right? And there you go. And then of course that game did super well, like in terms of critically, but in terms of sales, if you go look it up right now, you will see 40% less sales than the Last of Us.
The first one.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the games
more than the
industry
Part 2
was always going to heap every award going on that game, because it certainly was in step with everything that they want to value, message wise, politics wise, and it was just relentless by the time you got to Last of Us 2. And it's a shame, because there's good elements within that game that would have been interesting to explore in a more mature way than what they did, instead of just rushing all of it in to get it as much of it as possible. I've got to say as well,
people's channels and all that.
Yeah, there was that.
Oh, this is the Xbox lady.
Yeah,
so this is she's head of
head of global marketing for Xbox.
Global marketing, yeah. Raise your hand if you're not a white man and you buy video games. So, that's a great thing to lead with. No hate to white dudes. Sure, yeah, I believe you. It's just another day in the gaming industry that minorities have to fight to prove they exist. Like, what do you think you're getting out of that? Of making a statement like that? Is it just like, I've done my good bits?
It's exactly what George said. It's virtue signaling.
It's virtue signaling. I mean, come on, they want to fight quote unquote racism by acting like a firefighter, going to a scene and going, hey, there's a fire, let me throw Molotov cocktails at it. People just want to have fun. They want to be entertained. You don't want to have your video game have real world issues to deal with it unless it's crafted that way and it appeals to you. I mean, it's a joke. Just the same way I shared that with you, that Microsoft, that new product, what's it called? The
product inclusion and representation.
Right. Going through that, it's like that's what they want the future of gaming.
That article was insane, because when you look at the Microsoft thing, if you can bring it up, the demands that they have for video games is genuinely insane. By the time you get all the things they want, like X amount of percent to be diverse and gender and whatever, by the time you get through all of that, and now you have to make a story and a game out of that, it's just
right. And they don't want women to be sexy. Yeah. And they don't want women to be sexy. I'm like, I want more Sydney Sweeney, not less, damn it.
So here's your guide to representation for Microsoft. So getting started with representation, what steps have you taken to ensure that characters are represented respectfully and authentically? Are you telling new stories or sharing new perspective within the product experience? Have you validated assumptions you have made about your audience to check for blind spots or unintended stereotypes? Would you feel proud to show a member of a community how their culture or character is depicted within your experience? How are the wide range of customers depicted within your products and communications? Do all of your characters and player depictions look the same? What processes have you used to validate how different groups of people or cultures are represented in your experience? And do you have a process to review key decisions with the lens of respectful expression?
So many hoops to jump through before you even get to making something. And this is why when you look at games that have won Game of the Year in the past that fans have voted, what do you have? Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice in 2019. You got Elden Ring in 2022. Games like that. Why? Because they're just video games. They're just fun. They're not.
Helldivers is the perfect example. It's no politics, not real world issues or anything. Doesn't try to preach to us about anything. Just a fun game. Presents you with a fun scenario that lets you hook up with a bunch of mates and kill a bunch of aliens. Great. That's all we need.
That's all we want. And I mean, like oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, well, the point was like all this nonsense where this global head of marketing for Xbox is talking about like minorities fighting to exist, and it's like I talked about this in my video. But if anybody's ever been in a gaming lobby, there's two people that get made fun of in a gaming lobby: the person that's last and the person that's first. Like, you know, person that is the best in a lobby gets roasted the most. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin, backgrounds. We're going to accuse them of hacking or they're a bitch or whatever. Person that's last gets roasted for being shitty. And then it's just that's what a gaming lobby is. And when you have gamers that have grown up with that type of mentality, to hear someone that's head of global marketing talk about how minorities have to fight to exist, that is the definition of not being able to read the room. You don't understand the industry you're involved in.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
What I find in the experience of I've quite a lot of viewers that are actually, they say in the comments anyway, like I'm a black guy, A lot of them are just disgusted with the way that a lot of these companies treat their skin color. You know, they treat them as if they're not real people. You know, they treat them as if like, oh, you're black, therefore you will like this because you are black. And it's like, that's not how that works. Right? People are far more.
Well, it's the whole white savior complex all over again, isn't
it's like
it? It's
you
like,
said,
oh, let me protect you, let me champion you.
Because Daenerys with all the people holding her up.
Yeah, you can't succeed by yourself. You need me to help you. And it's like, okay, like if it's a fucking rainy day, is it your fault because you didn't give the sun enough encouragement or something? Like, gosh, you're putting an awful lot on yourself, sir. Like that's what it comes down to. It's just self-aggrandizing nonsense.
And what I keep saying is like the games that do the best, the movies that do the best too. I mean, like, what's one of the movies that crossed $1 billion in the last few years? Top Gun Maverick. No politics, just a great movie. Here you go. We're not going to talk down to you. We're just going to give you a great movie to watch. And what happened? Made over $1 billion. And that's all you really have to do. You just have to. They have to realize they got to stop talking down to people, and then they can't stop doing that. And it's not just games; it's everything.
I like this one here from Spiro Floropoulos. Says, I'm a programmer and wannabe game developer creating a game on my streams. I'm sick of the woke games and movies, so I'm creating stuff that's anything but this crap. Even video games from the 80s where I grew up were better than a lot of games today, 3D or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can get behind that. And it's just like, it doesn't always come down to like, you know, $300 million budgets. It comes down to having good ideas and getting people bought into your world.
I mean, I'm not kidding. Any time spent on making sure you represent culture and race correctly to not incentivize or be insensitive to any particular bit, that's all time you're not spending on developing the fucking mechanics and the story.
Yep.
Like, and it's just tying hands behind your back when you don't need to. Like, oh, here's all these like fucking ridiculous rules and hoops that you have to jump through in order to even tell your story in the first place. Well, your artistic freedom has just shrunk by about 90% because it's all constrained by all this nonsense.
I remember when Crystal Dynamics, when they made the Tomb Raider remasters, you guys probably know, when they had that little excerpt that came out. Remember? Oh, these games are technically racist. We don't like condone these games.
Outdated cultural depictions.
Yeah, and the whole time reading that, I'm like, so you guys are virtue signaling, but at the same time, you're also profiting off these games being sold.
It was such a fucking token gesture as well, because you only ever saw that piece of warning text once. The first time that you installed the game, that's it. It never appears again. It's literally just there to say, like, hey, we ticked that box. We apologize for.
Look how good.
Yeah, we apologize for our offensive content, but we're going to profit off it massively.
And you know what's crazy about that too? Someone on Nexus Mods tried to make a mod that would remove that screen from the Tomb Raider remasters, and Nexus Mods banned them and banned the mod. But just if you go on Nexus Mods right now, you can find mods where you can actually end children.
Yes.
Games like Fallout and Skyrim, that's fine.
And that's
you can do that, no problem.
Just like they wouldn't let you remove the pronouns thing from Starfield. But it apparently wasn't a big deal. Shout out to Az.
Where's Az when you need him? Yeah. Fucking pronouns. There's a great there's a great super chat here. It's £200 actually from Big Blue Mamaku. Says the BBC has 4 impartiality rules that all employees must follow when using social media. By my reckoning, Ideologue Jules here broke the top 3 with her tweet, and yet it still remains up. If any BBC journalists argued the other way using similar rhetoric, then they'd be cancelled within an hour. Glad I don't pay for my TV license. I'm with you on that one, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly right. Like if she was to make that argument about any other demographic, that'd be it. She'd be banned. She'd be fired within minutes.
You even have the example of Danny Lalonde. She's a lady that worked on Validate, which was this like all-inclusive dating game. And
she's the one that went viral for the Lib to TikTok viral clip.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, we didn't hire any white people because we didn't want any microaggressions. Everyone on the team is black. And you know for a fact, if you had someone that was white saying the same thing, we only hired white people because we didn't want any microaggression with black people, they'd be like, well, we're canceling you.
Cancel. It's over. You would lose your job. Your family would be doxxed.
Exactly.
You would be banned off social media. They would harass you for the next year. And they would be like, "You're boring." Like Gavin,
you're so fucking boring.
But you know what's even funnier about that Validate game, by the way? If you go look it up, it turns out they had, I think it's like 12 characters in that game could be romanced. One character is white. It's like some Italian guy. And that ended up being the character that was the most romanced in Validate by their own players. And then the people that made that game got so upset with their own fan base because everyone romanced the only white person in a game that's just full of diversity. And I was just like, that's like, you couldn't write a funnier joke if you tried. Like, that was amazing.
George sent me this this link here, which I think is amazing. It's the Black Girl Gamers website.
That's insane.
Hold on, let me see if I can get it here. Can my white husband join? He's black on the inside.
This is in the Black Girl Gamers. Yeah, this is the Black Girl Gamers FAQ section right here. Holy crap! And what does it say?
So can my white husband join? He's black on the inside, and it says if you don't leave that man at home.
Oh my gosh, man!
I mean, they're just blatant about it, but then they're complaining that everybody else is, attacking them.
Black Girl Games is crazy. If you actually look at their form in order to join their actual like community or whatever, you have to put your first name, your last name, real name, obviously, your phone number, your email, and you have to actually provide them with a photo of yourself. Like just
so they verify your skin color. Is that what you're saying?
Well, here's an interesting tweet that came from a girl who used to work for them, apparently, from Vanessa Gothics.
Yeah, Gothics.
She says, as a former Black Girl Gamers member, I can confidently say these people are full of shit. They do not care about diversity. They promptly kicked me out for being anti-black, aka not making an idol out of my skin color and refusing to hate white people. I was harassed for months after the fact and received an onslaught of vitriol from many of their members. You know how Black Girl Gamers responded? They blocked me and literally scrubbed my existence off of their platforms. That's not very inclusive.
Not at all.
I'm shooketh.
And also, she was on a podcast recently with on Side Scrollers. And if you look it up right now, Side Scrollers live stream with Gothics suspiciously was having troubles airing on YouTube, but it was fine on everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting.
Funny how that happens, isn't
it? She says she has receipts. So if she's, please,
I think she's got some stuff in her. She's got her documentary. I haven't watched it yet, but She's got her documentary that she says has some of the receipts in it.
Yeah.
But that is the fantastic state of gaming. It's a wonderful world, but man, this stuff is not stopping. It really feels like they're digging deeper and deeper with this, and they're finding a lot.
It's going to get substantially worse. And I mean, Elon Musk keeps signal boosting a lot of these stories. He's just signal boosted the story about the Xbox global head of marketing tweet, and he'll continue to do that. And anytime Elon Musk tweets about something like that, it's going to send it to another stratosphere.
It is because he's tired of everything. Oh, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Can you imagine if he didn't buy over Twitter? Like all of this stuff would have been suppressed. None of it would have got out.
I've said that Elon Musk buying Twitter is probably we're going to look back as this might be one of the most important moments in the culture. It is completely shifted. I don't think we fully understand how impactful it's has been and will be. And
he
so
took back the public square. He took back the public square and offered it to people. That's why some of the complaints, people are like, well, he hired, Yacarino, he did this. I'm like, he's got to take it one step at a time. I'm just hoping he does something with Peltz or with Disney.
I don't think he will. I don't.
Even the Gina lawsuit is good. I mean, the fact the Gina lawsuit is good, he's going to bring a lot of attention to that. But you know,
the thing that I like, the way I look at it is Elon buying Twitter is intrinsically tied to the culture shift of everything. Because if you think about it back before when you didn't own it, especially during the pandemic era,
with Jack,
you couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
You say anything with wrong thinking, it was like, bam, you're done. You're out of here. I wasn't on YouTube at the time, but anyway. But now that he owns it and we're actually able to freely discuss these things, like, for example, Grum's on Twitter. If you imagine Grum saying what he was saying if Elon Musk didn't own Twitter, he would have been shadow banned, whatever, like months ago, Yep. And that's the thing is like, because we're actually allowed to speak about these things on, like what George said, the biggest platform, I would say socially, it's changed everything for the better, in my opinion. Whether I agree with someone or not doesn't matter. I think everyone should be allowed to say whatever they want, but you should equally also be allowed to have your opinion be combated by someone else's.
Amen.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the whole principle of it, isn't it? It's like you can use your free speech to express your opinions on whatever you want. Other people can use their free speech to either agree with you or argue against you. That's how it works.
There's nothing wrong with that. You should be allowed
I think what you've seen is like one side of the argument getting suppressed, so that their opinions are not even allowed to come out, and so it fools everyone else into thinking that, well, the other side is the dominant prevailing attitude in our culture when it might not be. So I'd much rather see a fairer, balanced, like public square where everyone gets to express their views. And that's why you're seeing these
like more, I would say, specialized echo chambers happening, right? So okay, they can't suppress Twitter per se and the free speech on it. However, they still have echo chambers here and there. Like I said, the video games industry is a big one, for example. And same thing with Hogwarts Legacy, right? They just ignored it not existing. But they can't ignore the fact that it sold 23 million copies. But they can't ignore getting awards because they still technically own and control that space. But I just want to say 100. Yeah, like I said, with everybody's like I said again, like you have like the consumer now more than ever. You are more informed than ever. You are more vocal than ever, and you're stronger than ever. And they can attempt to say whatever they want in terms of movies, video games, TV, whatever, and say, no, you're gonna take that, you're gonna buy this, and you're gonna like it, and we can just go, we're just gonna watch you fall down the cliff. We don't have to save you. It doesn't matter. And if you tell gamers like, oh, well, then you won't get any new games. Do you know who gamers are? You know how big our backlogs are?
Retro gaming is massive, and retro gaming is massive.
Yeah, like we don't need a new. I could go without a new game for 2 months. Please. I have so much shit on backlog right now. Like, do it.
When you were talking about Twitter there as well, I just thought one of the things that I've really come to appreciate in recent months is community notes. And I think it really hit home when they were talking about Sydney Sweeney's boobs, where there was an article saying that they're not that big. And then the community notes just said, yes, they are. It's like, that's the turning point in the culture right there, gentlemen.
I hope she plays Black Cat.
I'm not the biggest fan of community notes, but I do like when people get roasted by that. I think it just let it be the Thunderdome and let the comment section clear it up. But it seems like Community Notes is a little weaponized at times, but damn it, when somebody gets owned, that Sydney Sweeney one was perfect. And there's a couple of other ones that it's just because I follow an account called Community Notes just owning people, and there's just so many of these screenshots. You're like, holy shit, man.
Well, wasn't there really one from that? What's her name from Kotaku?
Alyssa Mercanti.
Melissa Mercanti, yeah, where she said that it's not possible to be racist towards white people. And then the Community Notes were like, well, racism is defined as prejudice against any race, including white people, so you're wrong.
That drives me nuts, by the way. The whole idea is like you can't be racist towards white people, and then it's like just like the ignorance of that statement of when people say like, oh, like white people can't experience racism or they never experienced slavery, and it's like you never read a history book,
right? You know that. You know they're uneducated, or they've bought into it all. They're brainwashed.
I know, it's insane. They only think that the only slavery that's ever happened was in America's history, and I'm just like, as someone who's part Serbian alone, like, dude, like
every culture has been
Serbians were under like we were under Turkish, like we have so many different people that have like oppressed my people. Like I'm also Armenian, like Armenians had the Turks and stuff like that. Like
you got it from both ends.
Exactly. Like I'm more marginalized than these people who want to be marginalized. You know what I mean? But I have white skin, so I'm apparently the oppressor. When it's like, no, like you don't know anything about history. Clearly, it just drives me nuts. All of it.
On a lighter note, though, you guys are all excited for the Acolyte, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, potentially bad news on the horizon, gentlemen. It might only be a one and done. They might not even get a season 2 for it if the latest crop of rumors are to be believed. This one's from That Park Place, who says that an alleged insider at Lucasfilm claims that Leslie Headland's upcoming series, The Acolyte, is not going to get a second season. It informed the Park Place that The Acolytes is DOA. Unless there's a miracle of ratings, this is a one-and-done proposition. It looks to me like John Knoll is no longer going to be actively meeting with Headland to collaborate on Season 2, and he's the executive director of Industrial Light and Magic, who do all the special effects for the Disney Plus shows. Basically saying they're not even discussing it. Not only did the insider claim that the series was done after a single season, he also claimed that Disney is viewing those reacting negatively to the trailer as aggressive trolls. For now, the negative reaction to the trailer is being labeled as aggressive trolls, and it's irrelevant to the market. The first series trailer has currently over 500,000 dislikes on YouTube alone.
Well, yeah, and Headland, I remember Headland was saying a few weeks ago that she's like, no, I have this planned. I sold it to Disney as a multi-season package, because she was saying that she wanted to ditch the long story format narrative and go more kind of like an episodic monster of the week. She's like, I don't want to leave people with a cliffhanger at the end of the season. And I was like, okay.
Isn't that how you get them to come back, though?
Right. But see, I think this is a new thing. Rings of Power. You remember Rings of Power? We still haven't seen a trailer for season 2. And
that is going to be apocalyptic when that comes out.
Yeah. Especially if the reports are true that they actually quietly bought the full rights to the Silmarillion and that they've shot part of the Inu Lindale, the creation scene. But you had McKay and Payne, the showrunners, who said, we realized one of the problems with season 1. We realized it. We have to ditch this long form storytelling. We're going to go kind of like a monster of the week, give everybody, beginning, middle, and the end in every episode, and a double down on the action. And make
How do you do that in an epic fantasy? That's insane.
I know, but that's why it's nutty. That's why the director, which is odd, she directed Shogun, which I'm loving the series. Yeah. But she's also directed, I think, 3 of the episodes for season 2 for Rings of Recycled Fantasy. And she came out and she said to one Screen Rant and some other YouTuber, she's like, yes, it's going to be darker, edgier, grittier, dirtier. That's all I can tell you.
Great.
Am I wrong in remembering that season 1 of Rings of Power, like something like 60% or more of people didn't even finish the season?
63.
Yep.
Yeah, 2/3 of viewers
that's bad.
Didn't make it to
That's
the
not
end.
good.
They have no audience to come back to. But that's why I'm bringing it back to Disney, to the Acolyte. I think a lot of people are taking the wrong message in Hollywood. Maybe some people looked at Amazon's like, oh, if they're going to go that route, maybe we should go that route. Because Headland was talking like Game of Thrones era is over. I'm like, people like these stories.
I mean, at this point, me and Ryan were breaking down like all of the trailers that Disney has had, whether it was Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, even looking like Mandalorian, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's never been anything like this for Disney Star Wars. And while I think that it represents the series, it also represents just overall Disney Star Wars and how people are just fed up with this bullshit. And it's all just, centering around this series, and the fact that I think Leslie Headland's a very unlikable individual for many reasons. And then you look at the trailer, which is just a showcase of diversity, that it's obvious the story they're trying to tell from that perspective. And yeah, I mean, they've never faced any backlash like this. And Star Wars is in such a strange place because I mean, I know MauLer is a huge fan of Andor. I've watched the first few episodes of Andor and I really did enjoy it, but it's just Disney Star Wars. I have no passion for anything negative or positive.
That's the worst thing.
Yes,
is for fans to not just, because if fans hate something, it still means you can win them back. Yeah. But when fans enter the state of apathy, which is where Jeremy and many others are at, that's when you're screwed, because no one cares anymore.
Well, there's no emotional investment at all anymore, and that's the point where you just disconnect from it and say, "Man, I don't care anymore. I'm just not going to watch any of your stuff. It's not worth my time."
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I mean, I didn't watch Mandalorian season 3. I didn't watch Book of Boba Fett. I watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, unfortunately, which is probably the worst thing I've seen from Disney Star Wars. Which says a lot. Says a lot. I didn't watch Ahsoka.
You should definitely watch Book of Boba Fett in that case.
It was ass. So bad.
I didn't watch Ahsoka, and I had, before I saw the trailer for The Acolyte, I was like, I'm going to watch this show because it's going to be so fun to roast. And after seeing the trailer, I'm back to that place where I'm just like, I don't even know if it's worth my time to roast this
it's
piece
awful
of shit.
It's weird too. In The Acolyte, apparently, Leslie Headland's wife is in it. She's the one with the laser whip.
Yeah, she is.
Is that the floppy lightsaber?
That's the Jedi Master, the green one.
Well, I think
that's Leslie Headland's wife.
Yeah, I think that's the reason that Leslie Headland is, got a wife, because any man that's ever met her had a floppy lightsaber. Anyway, I'll leave that one alone. But too ugly to be assaulted, as Quarter Black Garrett says. So it's true.
She's the reason feminism was invented. Come on, it's like an excuse for the ugly girls in order to remain.
Well, it's interesting as well, because like this article mentions as well that previous Disney Plus shows for Star Wars anyway have seen a decline as well. They say here live action Disney Plus Star Wars is very quiet compared to what it was just 2 years ago. Nielsen data shared in January revealed that The Mandalorian saw a decline in watch time of around 2 billion minutes in 2023 compared to when The Mandalorian Season 2 released it back in 2020. The series racked up only 12.3 billion minutes in 2023. I mean, that's probably because it was absolute dog shit, but yeah, it's perhaps
and like
speaking
and
to a general decline of interest in these shows.
The shows that are streaming that are doing the best, like look at like Reacher. Probably cost a fraction of any of those Star Wars shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's doing so much better. And again, it just repeats the same thing I've constantly been saying, right? Don't attack the audience. Just give them fun entertainment and they'll come in kind. And with Star Wars, they just can't help themselves. They keep ruining it.
And there are a lot of good shows out there. There are a lot of good shows that they could take example from. Shogun, Tokyo Vice. Has anybody seen Tokyo Vice?
No. I'm going to watch Shogun next. That's my next, once I platinum Final Fantasy Rebirth, I can move on with my life. Let's put it that way.
But I mean, this is a show that I think, much like the Marvels, like we all would have predicted in advance that it's going to be a failure because it's got a pretty controversial showrunner. Everything that they've talked about with this show relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. None of it is really about the story or what makes it interesting or compelling. And then when we get the trailer, again, it's just a showcase for all of this stuff rather than getting us invested in the story. So none of it exists to draw us in. And so it doesn't work. And so it's doing exactly what we would have predicted. It's going to flop because it's either antagonizing the fan base that exists, all 10 of them, or it's not presenting anything that any normal person is going to get invested in either. And so it loses out on both counts. It's the worst of both worlds. And so inevitably it's going to have crap ratings. Every piece of content that they put out in relation to it is going to probably get terrible ratings because people have got no reason to like it or support it.
No, and it's also based on the High Republic, which is the least popular era of Star Wars for a lot of fans.
They should have just gone Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, Jeremy said it a little bit earlier. When I saw the trailer, I wasn't excited. I don't know when was the last time that I was excited by seeing a Star Wars trailer. And I enjoyed Andor.
Yeah, no. My thing was I wasn't excited to grift off of it. Like that's how bad it is. Like I wasn't excited to roast it even. And that's right. I'm way beyond like because again.
But when were you last excited for Star Wars? Like when you saw a trailer, when was the last time you were really anyone was excited?
For Mandalorian season trailer, I guess Mandalorian season 2.
For me, it would have been like Jedi Survivor. Like I think those games are good. Like that's technically Star Wars canon in a sense, but besides that, nothing else.
I have a problem with Respawn working on anything that's not Titanfall 3. So I have something against it if it's not Titanfall 3. That's another discussion for another time.
The last time I was excited for a trailer was probably TLJ.
Oh.
And even then I had misgivings because I was thinking while I was watching it, wow, Luke's not really doing much in this. I wonder what that's going to mean for the movie. And wow, as it turned out, I was right there. But yeah, that's probably the last time I had an anticipation for a Star Wars movie. And beyond that, when we saw Rise of Skywalker, we knew what it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because, I mean, I felt like after Rise of Skywalker and how bad it was and how badly it performed, I just felt like the fans have been proven right. There's no way they cannot ignore this. And that was around the time, obviously, a little later, we got The Mandalorian, which I thought was fine. But, Gina was in it and Gina was, giving her opinions on things. And I was like, well, if they're going to, again, I'd rather no one that's involved in the creative process talk about any of their politics. But if they're going to allow Gina to say what she's saying, they've already been allowing everyone else on the opposite side to say it. At least we're getting somewhere. And then, of course, they fired her. And then it's just been a downward trend since then. And in all honesty, I think Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 are kind of like what we were talking about with Ghostbusters Afterlife in a lot of ways, where we were being a little more lenient on it because it wasn't The Last Jedi. But yeah, man, it's just been I'm officially at a point where I do not think Star Wars will ever be saved. I've been saying that for a long time.
It's been diminishing returns. Think about it. Force Awakens made over $2 billion at the box office. Mm-hmm. Last Jedi was 1.7,
1.3,
and then,
or 1.4.
My bad. And then Rise of Skywalker is $1
right
billion.
at a bit, $1 billion.
It's not good that your finale made literally half of what your opening movie made.
Yep. But how much did they lose? How much did they lose though with the Disney Plus series? You had Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, Andor, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I've heard reports that they're anywhere between 150 to 200 million per season.
Yeah, easily. I mean, She-Hulk was $25 million an episode.
Somehow.
So that was 10 episodes. That's $250 million down the drain. How many new subscribers did that bring in? Probably not many.
And I would imagine lost subscribers.
Too afraid to make a movie, but simultaneously have to keep making Star Wars something.
Yeah,
but this is the problem, in my opinion, right? The same thing that ruins Marvel is ruining Star Wars is Disney Plus. It's too much.
Well, yeah, it's the need to fuel that content mill constantly. Just putting out more stuff. And of course, they don't have time to develop any proper stories for it. It gets designed by committee ultimately, because anything that catches on that actually has a little bit of success, like The Mandalorian, gets immediately taken over by the studio. And you end up with The Mandalorian season 3, which is just garbage. Yeah. I mean,
and they're going to fall into the same trap, right? Because their next Star Wars movie, I guess, besides episode
10, Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, Mandalorian Grogu. That's the Marvels all over again, because it's homework the movie, right?
Yeah,
you can't watch it unless you watch those TV shows.
I've said before, I'm so fucking over both of those characters. I don't care about Mando and I don't care about Grogu anymore either, because they've been overused to the point of abuse. And they don't matter anymore.
Fashion, drive it into the ground, right?
They had a nice way of saying goodbye to Grogu at the end of season 2 when Luke picks him up and off he goes. Great. That was a nice way of getting rid of that character, and Mando could go on and have other adventures unencumbered. But they had to bring him back because he was too much of a marketing ploy.
Out of curiosity, and I guess this is directed at anybody here who thinks and enjoys Mando season 1 and 2. When's the next time you're rewatching that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why
ever.
That's what I'm saying. Nope. There was, I think a lot of people present, me included, were a lot more forgiving of that because it wasn't Disney. It wasn't the Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. And you look back on it, and there's no really rewatchability in that. Now, again, I haven't seen Mandalorian season 3. I heard it was terrible.
Oh,
but and the Book of Boba Fett, I heard that's probably it seems like everybody thinks that's the worst thing that Disney Star Wars has produced.
It's the worst in terms of like overall quality, but I think Obi-Wan is the most damaging. Yeah, the most damaging.
Yes.
And my attitude towards The Mandalorian was never even that positive. It was more just, hey, look at them. They did a thing and it wasn't terrible. Well done. You know, good on you, Lucasfilm.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I did.
That's how low the bar is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I did, and I enjoyed it. Not like I don't remember how I did very much enjoy it. I don't think I loved it, but I was like, okay, this is good. It's good. And then season 2 had a lot of cameos. Season 2 felt more like Clone Wars episodes than anything, with a lot of cameos and everything. But ultimately, there's just it's the sum of all the parts, man. Disney Star Wars, no matter what they do, they can't get out of the rut they're in. And even if they have little glimmers of things, the overall disaster that they've created, they cannot get out of it. I know a lot of people like Andor.
They could though, but they just don't. They've lost $1.8 billion.
What I'm saying is that
Plus series.
But there's no realistic scenario where Disney Star Wars improves. There's unrealistic ways where they could do it. Where we could say, well, hypothetically, if they did X, Y, and Z, but reality is, outside of Elon Musk buying Disney and doing what he did to Twitter and firing 90% of the staff, they're never going to fix it because they have the people that they have put in that company will not allow it to change. Yeah, that's just the bottom line.
It's full of ESG, woke, diversity hire people across the board. Mm-hmm. And at this point, like it's the same thing with a Rocksteady that made Suicide Squad and stuff. These companies are so infested by these ideologies that you can't save them anymore. You know, it's sort of like if you have a bunch of termites in a piece of wood, you can't save the wood. You just have to burn it. You know, there's nothing you can do, and that's really at the end of the day all you can really do about this.
I think that's probably the attitude of the individuals involved as well. They would rather burn down the entire company or the entire franchise rather than just admit that they're wrong or let go of this stuff, this ideological propaganda.
Yep,
that they love so much.
Like that's the thing. Like they would rather burn everything to the ground, and they will never admit that they were wrong, right? Like just for the fact in Star Wars, like if I remember correctly, because it's very hard to remember what the hell happens in these Disney Plus series. Am I right to remember that Grogu comes back to Mando, not even in the Mando show?
No, that's
comes back to him and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Like
in a weird little interlude in
you know what I mean? So like, if you just watched Mando season 2 to 3, you're like, oh, there goes Grogu, and then you watch season 3, and like, oh, Grogu's back, and you're just like, well, when did that happen? You know, like such a bizarre, like just things like that. I'm like, what are you guys thinking over there, honestly?
And like MauLer said earlier about how they basically have this mindset of like, well, we got to get another Star Wars show and another Star Wars movie, and Star Wars was always special because it was an event. And there was something built around it. And when you don't have that event nature of something that deserves that, then it becomes watered down and it becomes irrelevant. And that's where Star Wars is. And that's why we haven't had a movie since 2019. And I guess, and I guess we're going to get the Mandalorian movie. If that's the next one, I have no idea.
Well, I think the Rey movie is likely to be the next one, and then the Mandalorians after that.
Yeah, bring that one on. We'll see.
The Rey.
I mean, that's going to be hilarious.
And they think that's going to save Star Wars. That was one of their statements that they were saying that the Rey movie. They're like, okay, we're going to get. They said we found the 3 most popular characters. We're going to put them together: Rey, Grogu, and R2.
I love that as well. It's like we recognize that we've got major problems, and the thing that's going to save us is the problem that we created for ourselves. It's like poetry, you see, it rhymes. It's just constantly going back on itself. It's amazing.
Crazy.
We have to pander harder, damn it. I'm never gonna forget this line as well from Obi-Wan. Have you come to destroy me? I mean, Vader says after showing up to destroy him. Okay, sure.
It's amazing.
It's top tier.
I figured after they lost enough, they would start to get the message.
The message.
Oh, you know they're scrambling. That's why we haven't seen a Star Wars movie, because they know the second they release that shit, the box office numbers will come to us and we'll all laugh at them, and it's not going to be fun.
Yep.
It's because of apathy.
Right, but $1.8 billion, that's a lot of money for just your D+ shows for Star Wars.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Marvel, right? Marvel, like Jeremy said, Marvel as well, like Star Wars, they were event movies. And then you diluted it with all these Disney Plus homework shows. And now nobody cares anymore.
Well, I mean, they diluted it, but they also made shit films as well. So
that's that too, yes.
Double whammy.
Right. But here's a question. If they had maintained the quality somehow, if they had maintained the quality in the D+ shows, whether it was for Star Wars or for Marvel that we got, and it
would have been bigger than ever.
Right, I think so.
Honestly,
but would the fact that the volume that they were pumping out then change the dynamic? Like where it wouldn't be, you'd have great shows.
In my opinion,
are you suggesting, like, okay, so say the MCU maintained that high level of quality, right, but they still pumped out all the Disney Plus shows and the same rate of movies,
right? Would
it be as popular? Nah, I think it would still have diluted it, and it still would have slowly turned people away. It just would have taken a lot longer.
Okay.
What I think personally is, I think you can never, like, if they kept pumping up stuff that's like amazing, fans will respond in kind as long as it's great. But if it's not good, then obviously no. Why would you want to spend any time on it, right?
No,
it's like video games.
Let's say you had everything was like, I don't know, whatever your favorite MCU phase 1 through 3 film was. Let's say it was on the level of, for me,
Winter Soldier,
right? And you had shows on D+ that were like that. I think I'm agreeing with Drinker where he's like, even but the amount that they're pumping out, no matter how good it could be, I mean, you're just diluting it. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. Yeah, of course.
So they'd have to. So maybe the fact is they needed to just do one a year, one show a year, 2 shows. Just spend the time.
Well, thankfully this year it's just Deadpool. Well, I mean, for movies anyway.
No, we have Craven.
Right? Well, no, but like,
but that's.
I think
that's a Sony thing.
I think that the only shows that they would need, and I talked about this with Andor and how no one seemed to watch it, generally speaking, compared to any of the other stuff that was out there. Andor, and it would have been a perfect series in a well-operated Star Wars universe where the movies, the mainline movies were operating, people were enjoying, people were investing, the movies were spread out 3 to 4 years apart. And then suddenly you have this Andor series that is definitely not going to get as many eyes on it as the big tentpole movies, but it's going to give you a different kind of perspective within the universe of Star Wars and give you certain insights into certain characters. And it would have really kind of kept the hardcore fan base really, really happy. But because Star Wars is such a bad place, something like Andor flew way under the radar. No one talked about it. No one cared about it, generally speaking. And even the people that enjoyed it weren't really in big numbers, and it still was something that no one really discussed after the fact.
I have a question.
You know what it is? I think it was almost too good and too intelligent for modern Star Wars fans. And so they didn't get it, but then the very few people that were like more, how can I put it, like more willing to embrace like more intelligent views of this world, of the Star Wars world, there just wasn't enough of them to make enough noise to get that critical mass and actually, make this show a success. And so it was catering to the wrong audience. Like the modern Star Wars fans, the kind of people who like the Disney Plus shows and like the Disney Star Wars movies are dumb as fuck. Yeah. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like they must just like bright colors and shapes and just loud music and things that look familiar to them. That's all it's going to take for them. Like, it's just going to be cool. Did we ever
talk about what Skarsgård said about Andor?
What is it?
His quote, he said that when creating it, he just felt that Andor was Star Wars for adults.
Oh. Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, but I hear Drinker what he's saying. It's like this audience today couldn't get it. They're window lickers. I mean, there's just no way.
Well, they recognize colors. That's definitely,
They recognize when characters have Vadered, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's
the basics down. So is that what Hedlund basically did? She's like, let me get a lot of lightsabers in different colors.
Well, I don't know. Absolutely, dude. The end of that trailer with all the lightsabers and then the red lightsaber. We covered to someone on EFAP. It was like, can't fucking believe dude's red lightsaber and fucking, oh my God, I'm so hyped. So many lightsabers. Like, yep. All stuck here.
That's modern Star Wars fans for you.
Yep.
But I don't even know where this is going to sit within that whole scheme of either the window licking, key jangling simpletons who like the Disney Plus shows versus the people who want the more adult version of Star Wars. I don't know what the Acolyte's tone is going to be because the trailers give us nothing.
It could be Rise of Skywalker, where it literally pissed everybody off.
It might be,
because that's what Rise of Skywalker was. Like, you pissed all the TLJ weirdos off, and you pissed all the regular and the people that hated TLJ hated Rise of Skywalker. It pissed everybody off.
Based on all the interviews, based on all the publicity, like what Leslie Headland as a creative force cares about is representation. Having people who are like her, who are female, who are gay, who are, I don't know, gender fluid or something, on screen as much as possible and getting as much of that representation in. And having a story within the Star Wars universe is probably a distant second in terms of
it's priorities. A recipe for utter disaster.
That's why she hired the writer. Remember, was it last week that it came out? She hired a writer who knew nothing about Star Wars, never saw any of the movies, knows none of the lore, never read any of the
that's the good thing.
Yeah, because apparently they would like question everything, I guess, from like a normie's perspective. I mean, that's probably how she was thinking about it. But that's stupid. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want someone there to, just
I can understand
it's The Witcher Netflix all over again.
I can understand the idea of getting a fresh pair of eyes on something and like an outside perspective, but it still has to be anchored in this world. And so you can't have people writing things that just blatantly contradict all the shit that you've already established. That's when you break your fictional universe and nobody can get invested in it again. But I don't think they care. That's the problem. Like, it's just, that's not their priority. I did like this one as well, from Just Observant. It says, thank you. I feel alone, but you make me feel less alone. That might seem trivial. It might seem like it's nothing, but it isn't trivial. It's not nothing. It's everything. Thank you for keeping us all sane. Appreciate it. We're doing our best. Ironically, we've gradually lost our sanity in the process, but as long as we can help you guys, that's what it's about.
There's a few things I've seen doing this YouTube thing that made me lose my sanity. One of them was Echo. That made me just... I became the Joker watching that. I just could not believe it. But yeah,
that was trash. That was epic trash. No,
yeah, that made me.
It also, I also found Ahsoka to some degree like that when you had whatever her name was, the girl who got stabbed with a lightsaber glow stick, right?
Sabine,
Sabine. And I'm like, didn't we? I even made a little short because I never make shorts. It's like, didn't we just have a few years ago someone called Qui-Gon get stabbed through the same spot and then he dropped and died? But she's like, no. A few minutes later, she's back up.
Wasn't it Drinker that made that video about like what a lightsaber does to someone if they get stabbed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that one, actually.
Yeah, isn't it like if you get stabbed, basically your like organs would just like implode in like inward within?
It would it would probably cause the blood vessels in the area around the lightsaber to flash into steam. Like the water molecules in it would flash into steam immediately, and so it would be shooting out of your mouth, your eyes, your ears, and you would probably just explode.
For someone with a chimp brain, what this means is you get stabbed with a lightsaber, you become like a human hot pocket, like just like
basically
cheese coming out of you. Basically, you'd be dead instantly.
It would cook your internal organs because, especially the fact that it's held inside her for a good several seconds before she, pulls it out. Like, that's definitely gonna.
I think everyone is fine with swings, taking off limbs and stuff because that is absolutely repercussions, But then when it got to a point in Obi-Wan, I think they just took it too far when he's hitting them with the baseball bat lightsaber. Like he's like hit to a stormtrooper, and it's like, this is a fucking laser. What the fuck? Like what?
Even like the powers they came up with, right? Like they can now bring people back from the dead, apparently, and like Rise of Skywalker, just nonsense like that, and just
force healing.
No,
stupid. But that's why I was bringing it up, because Drinker was just saying like how they break their world.
Well, they do it all the time now because they don't care anymore. It's just they see lightsabers. Oh, it's just this brightly colored like laser sword. Cool. It looks cool. And we can just use it whenever we feel like it without any thoughts to like how it functions or what it means for the world or anything like that. It doesn't matter anymore. Like they don't care about any of that stuff. Like if they don't care, why should we? Right. That's the problem. But then if you don't care about the world that you've created anymore, then you don't have a fictional world that anyone's invested in. And so people just drift away.
Exactly.
None of it matters.
Agreed. Disney Star Wars is done. It's never coming back. As long as people just accept that, then, or if you like it, that's cool
Filoni
too. You
might
can like
save
it.
it, right?
Oh yeah, he's gonna save it. Well, again, my favorite story is the George Lucas rocking the MAGA hat and gonna just kind of take over Lucasfilm from Kathleen Kennedy. Denzel Washington from Crimson Tide style. He's just taking over Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Just like they're storming the Capitol. That's what they're going to do.
George is just an old man. He's tired. He doesn't need this anymore. He just wants to be left alone. Leave George alone.
I was disappointed that he sided with Iger, that he threw his hat.
I don't think he cares. He just
isn't it because his wife's on the board of like.
Well, he's the biggest shareholder of Disney stock, so he's just. They probably called him up. He probably doesn't even pay attention to this shit. Probably doesn't.
He's a billionaire. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
anymore.
He doesn't care.
He's like 70 something.
Yeah.
No, because he had spoken a couple of times where he was hinting a few years ago how he didn't like what they had done with it. So I always thought,
yeah, he remember him saying that he sold Star Wars to white slavers. Yeah, like
I mean, so I never figured he would side with Iger. I thought he would just stay out of it and let Peltz do his thing to try to put this thing back on track or to get.
Do you think that's actually going to happen though? Do you actually think like the whole Peltz thing is actually going to like?
We'll find out on April 3rd because that's when they have their vote on the.
I don't
the
think
board
it'll
members.
happen though. I don't think. I mean, some of these guys like Valiant Renegade and those guys have a lot more their finger on the pulse on that stuff. But I just feel like the deck is stacked against them. That's why I was hoping Elon Musk hopefully would get involved because that would turn the needle if he financially got involved. But it doesn't appear that's going to happen. So, Disney's just gone down the wrong road.
Yeah, they can't salvage Star Wars. It's pretty much dead under their wing. So maybe they'll sell it one day. I don't know.
Well, it's just
if they don't, then
like the fan apathy or the fan antagonism towards them as a company and the owner of the IP now is so strong that almost anything that they put out is going to get slated and destroyed on the internet because people just don't like them anymore. They don't like them as the custodians of Star Wars.
Yeah, because everything
they can't win.
Yeah, it's all politically driven, right? I remember reading about the what's it called, Captain America 4, and how many reshoots that's been going through because apparently audiences are saying it's too political. Like the test audiences have seen it, right? Allegedly, there's a scene in Captain America 4 where there's some sort of reenactment of storming the Capitol, where like these enemies are all conservatives, whatever. And then that was like apparently in the movie originally, and then that got taken out because rightfully so, it was too political and people hated it. And now like most of the movies being reshot again, and it's just they can't help themselves. They really can't, and they're ruining it.
But you understand why there was an article, I think I had shared it in our group earlier, where Anthony Mackie was talking about his series Twisted Metal, and then they had asked him a question. So did all your years with Marvel like prepare you for Twisted Metal? He's like, no. And he's like, Marvel is a controlled entertainment environment. And he goes, we really can't do anything creative because Stan Lee created too much content. I was like, what? You can't do anything creative because Stan Lee created. I'm like, do you understand what you just said?
I mean, I can definitely agree that they can't do anything creative now, but it's not because of Stan Lee.
I know. Like, you have decades worth of material.
Like they've so many, like their like best movies are the ones that, in a lot of sense, they take creative freedom in a sense as well. Like, I mean, Endgame, obviously that's based on the Infinity Saga, but I mean, we think about it, the person that snaps the Infinity Gauntlet in the comics, it's not Iron Man, right? Like they changed that, and it's fine, it works, it's great. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like even Civil War, like it's called Civil War, but when you think about it, even like the threat that the Civil War movie's based on, it's not based on the one that's in the comics, right? In the comics, it's because Nitro blows up a school full of kids, and then that causes all the superhero reforms and stuff to happen. They didn't do that in the movie. That's fine. Right, that's them taking something in a different direction, but still retaining, I guess you could say, what's unique about that situation, and that's fine. It's just nowadays they just seem to be more activism than anything else. And it's not about fun or escapism, right? So, like my favorite superhero movies from Marvel, I guess, like the MCU, whatever, it's like Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Endgame, Infinity War, and did I say Civil War or Winter Soldier? Whatever. Those are the best ones for me because those ones felt like escapism. They felt like real movies. And Nowadays, no. Like, I heard that Bob Iger canceled Eternals 2. He canceled Captain Marvel 3, I guess. And there was another one that he canceled because he knew it was going to be a flop. I don't remember what the third one was.
That was the rumors, yeah, because he was pretty much saying we're not going to pursue movies now that we don't believe in.
Probably a good idea.
She-Hulk was canceled.
It would be it would probably be good for them at this point to just stop everything, reset, start again. Because
not going to happen. They won't.
It won't. No. There's too many things in the pipeline.
That would be them proving that the toxic fans were right, and they could never do that. They could never say like, yeah, the toxic fans, the horrible Yahtzee fans that are so racist and sexist, they were right. We're gonna kind of restart. No, they can't do that. They're just gonna keep doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down.
Yep.
And there we are.
Even when people say like a reboot, like what's a reboot of the MCU going to do if all the same creative people are
exactly.
It's going to be even worse. You think Captain America being rebooted better? No.
We've still got Fantastic Four with Pedro Pascal to look forward to. So, Mr. I'm in everything. Bad. Let's do a few super chats here now. I'm ready. Hopefully you guys are too, because there's a ton of them have come in while we've been talking. Metal Face Rosie has got a question for you, MauLer. He says, MauLer, the internet is full of bad video essays on The Simpsons. Unleash your inner Fringy on them.
I mean, it doesn't work quite as well because I haven't seen what's like 60% of The Simpsons at this point, you know? Like, I'm so out of the loop. There's a few videos that are like, Simpsons is back or Simpsons is good again, which I'm inclined not to believe. Like, if anyone's watched classic Simpsons, that shit is basically unbeatable as an animated show for comedy. Like, the people behind it were incredible. But that notion of just doing like a Simpsons video essays, unless there's one that comes across, because I've seen a few that I found really good. I'd recommend Emp Lemon's video on I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's about the Frank Grimes episode. He goes over why Simpsons basically was over after that episode, that it had everything it set out to do as a concept of a show, it achieved in that episode, like thoroughly to 11 out of 10 level. And so it was only down from there. And I actually was quite convinced by the argument too.
I can get behind that, yeah. That was a dark episode, man. They also said Brandon Sanderson did an entire podcast claiming that Gandalf is a Mary Sue. Might need to have an EFAP on that one.
I mean, he loses a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I don't know.
People need to realize Gandalf's like kind of like a spirit, you know?
Yeah.
Can't really die.
Well, yeah, he's not man. Like he's
Ishtar.
Like a exactly. He's like an angel, basically.
Yeah.
Well, Middle Earth equivalent.
You know, there's a point, obviously I'm referencing the movie here. I'm not sure if it works the same way in the book, but where he's basically like at peace with the idea that they're all about to die in Minas Tirith.
Oh, I know. I love that scene where he's like, "No, it's just."
It doesn't seem very.
I mean, that dialogue is from a different part of the book, but
you can make the argument that everyone in Lord of the Rings is a Mary Sue, right? Because I guess, like, spoilers, most of them don't even die by the end of the book, right? Like Aragorn and all them, but they're all just badasses.
Well,
they're not perfect. That's the thing. I mean,
they're absolutely not. The whole, I guess, the theme of the book is to a great extent people overcoming their weaknesses or their failings and trying to move past them to be heroic people, and to rise to the challenge that's put before them. And sometimes they might redeem themselves, but they don't survive it. Like Boromir being the classic example, almost falls to the power of the ring and is ultimately killed. And there's many other characters who've fallen to its power as well. It's
there's plenty of ups and downs and tragedies and setbacks and failures. So
we can only be thankful for Lord of the Rings existing, for all the influence it had. I mean, I did a thing yesterday with Lofty Pixels, and he was talking about how in a lot of ways, you think about like Final Fantasy VII, like it was influenced by Lord of the Rings as well. Like the black materia in that game, that could be seen as the ring, and Cloud being controlled by Sephiroth. That's like Frodo with, Sauron and stuff. Like there's a lot of, it's a very, like, I'm so thankful that the Lord of the Rings exists, man.
Yep.
It's so good.
We are lucky. We're lucky we got it. Master of Puppets says, Halo, what's the panel's 3 favorite comic book movies? Mine are Dread, Logan, and Blade 2. Also saw One Life on your recommendation, Drinker. Loved it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's actually a pretty nice selection of films you got there. Dread, Logan, and Blade 2. It's quite eclectic, but I got a real soft spot for the Blade movies. The more I look back on them, the more fond I am of them.
So fantastic.
Blade 3, a bit shit, but 2, I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
1 and 2, great fun.
The Dark Knight, Superman the movie, and probably Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
Those
for
are my
me,
top
Batman
three.
Begins is my favorite, and then Spider-Man by Sam Raimi, the first one, and then probably either Spider-Man 2 by Sam Raimi or The Dark Knight, one of those.
I like Batman Begins, Christopher Reeve Superman movie, and Logan.
Damn, 2 people who picked Begins over Dark Knight, huh?
I love that movie.
Yeah,
I will fight that anyone against that. I love that movie so much.
If I was including Begins would actually be my second favorite overall, but I try to split it up within the trilogy. So that's why. But if you like, it's Dark Knight, and then Batman Begins is right there next to it, and then there's Superman the movie. But I don't want to use 2 Nolan movies in my top 3, so I love Begins.
Such a phenomenal movie, man.
And then there's a pretty big drop off to Dark Knight Rises, even though I love it, even with all its fucking problems.
I love how cheesy Bane is. I love his design. It's so good.
I like the magic. I like the magic knee brace.
His entire fucking plan makes 0 sense, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like the magic knee brace.
The magic knee brace.
I just want to say, like,
now.
some of my favorite designs are from the Nolan verse, man. The way they redesign Bane and like Joker and stuff, like, amazing. It's so good.
There's so much I love about Dark Knight Rises, but there's so many glaring issues in Dark Knight Rises that.
Why would you send all the police officers into the tunnels? Just because the plot needs to happen.
I almost made an entire video just on the plane sequence where they rescue Bane from being captured by the CIA.
I'm CIA. Like, what?
That whole thing is mind-boggling with how stupid it is. David Lamplow says, I rewatched Zulu. I feel they would not be able to make such a movie in those periods today without villainizing the white men rather than telling the amazing story of heroism and brotherhood. Yeah, you're exactly right. There's no way they would make Zulu today.
Oh, yeah. They just attacked Dune 2 for not, it was in Variety for not, what was it? Let me see the exact, they attacked it for not offering proper representation to Middle Eastern, North African, and Islamic culture.
It's on an alien planet.
Yeah, well,
10,000 years in the future. What do you want?
I just see people in the chat doing Bane quotes now.
For you.
Dude, he's great.
Later.
He's so like cheesy, but I love it. Like, you think darkness is your ally? Like,
Where's the trigger?
I would honestly, I'd love to have a sit down with Tom Hardy and just say, so what were you going for with that accent, that voice? Like, any influences there?
But that's one of Nolan's major flaws. Like, it's sound mixing and dialogue and audio. It's like, for me, like the worst parts about those Batman movies, like, I love everything about them pretty much, but I have to admit, like, the fight scenes, Nolan's fight scenes in the Batman movies, they're not the best. They're not great. They're not very great. Well, like the one between Bane and Batman in the cave, like Bane literally does this one. If you go back and watch it now, where he kind of like uppercuts like this, but you can clearly tell that like Christian Bale is like 3 feet or 4 feet ahead of him.
Yeah.
So Bane's just uppercutting like midair for no reason. And the Batman's just like, oh, I'm down. Like, it's okay.
Well, MauLer, do you like Begins or Dark Knight more?
I need to rewatch Begins. I haven't seen it in ages, and I'm tempted now because a lot of people do gas it up a bit, maybe rightfully. I do remember liking it. I just don't remember liking at all Ra's al Ghul's plan. I think it's absolutely batshit insane, retarded nonsense to blow up the water throughout all of Gotham. And then, of course, there's the dealing with the fact that should kill everybody.
Well, like what his whole plan was basically because the
atomize the water in it to put
atomize the water so that everyone in the city would get the scarecrow toxin, and then they would basically kill themselves in a sense. You wouldn't have to do anything.
Fucking insane nonsense.
My favorite part of Batman Begins is in the beginning where Bruce doesn't want to kill, so he ends up killing literally everybody to save the one guy. I'm gonna kill everybody.
I just want to say though, like when I watched that movie, I was in grade 8 when it came out, and for me, it was like a religious experience, like that watching that movie the first time because it's like what it did to me.
Well,
like, dude, that's that scene when Scarecrow gets the gas in his face and then Batman has like
terrifying.
the demonic. So good.
I think all of that was exactly what we needed after the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, where it had gone super camp. MauLer, I mean no disrespect to Mr. Freeze and stuff. Like that was a definitive portrayal there, but it had gone super campy, super silly, and it was just treated as a joke. And so it was nice to see these movies come out that really took it seriously and portrayed Bruce Wayne and Batman as interesting, fleshed out characters. And I say characters because they were the movie really took the time to play with the duality of those two characters and how they dealt with each other and how they intersected. So
part I always remember from Begins is when he's been hit with the fear gas and he's fallen outside. He called for Alfred. He picks him up and he's like terrified and screaming for help. And you can just see Alfred's face staring at him like,
little boy.
That
was a powerful scene.
Just like how they, there's so much. I can talk for hours with this movie.
For the much as I love the movie, my favorite Batman fight scene is still with Ben Affleck and BVS in that warehouse scene. I like that fight.
I think that
it's brutal. It's just, is it bad?
I think Ben Affleck's stunt double did a great job in that
scene. Right. Like Dark Knight Returns.
I mean, he is just an absolute wrecking machine in that scene.
Yeah. It's such a travesty he didn't get his own movie.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
It's a shame that Zack Snyder ever directed a DC movie.
Yeah, I didn't like the movie, but
don't worry, Jeremy. He's got Rebel Moon now. Everything's going to be fine. Can't wait for the extended 7-hour cut of that.
Jeremy, have you seen Rebel Moon? What are your thoughts on it?
I watched like 30 minutes of it, and I just could not. It is.
Did you watch it right and think that, oh shit, I think I've got cataracts because I can't focus on anything on the screen?
I did it because Gary was like, we're going to talk about Rebel Moon. I'm like, I genuinely like. I don't have like. I like Dawn of the Dead from Zack Snyder, and I like Watchmen.
Yeah,
300.
I 300. I watched 300 well after its heyday. So while I can appreciate its accomplishment for visual storytelling and visual effects, like it didn't hit with me the same way because I watched it so many years later.
That's fair. For me, that's like his best movie.
Yeah. For me. And of course, Man of Steel and BVS, I think BVS is fucking horrible. Yeah. I think that there's good aspects of Man of Steel. I actually like the first 45 minutes of Man of Steel when everything's like on Krypton and a lot of that, but it all falls apart.
You like the part where Kevin Costner is like, "No, don't save me.
Don't
let me get torn apart by this wire
video." That was funny.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Clark?
Don't get me started on that.
My guts are coming out of me from this tornado.
So yeah.
Yeah,
but Snyder's the definition of style over substance for the most part, and that's just the issue with him is, in his DC he does not understand those characters at all. And Superman watching his dad die is a classic example of that. And the reason that it was impactful in the Reeve Superman is, it's telling him like there's certain things you can't do with your power. It's supposed to, be perspective for him. Whereas this one, he literally watches his fucking dad die. You don't get over that. That's going to traumatize him. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to stop.
See, like the whole
neck.
Jeremy, tell that to Zod's snap neck.
Yeah.
The whole like his dad dying supposed to be that he can't save him. Right? Like his dad supposed to die of a heart attack.
Yes.
And then instead, his dad gets literally torn to bits by like
a
tornado. I never even bought it. This is why I said you could tag me in, Jeremy. I would have said like when Kevin Costner's like, "No, don't save me," Superman could slowly walk behind, make sure nobody's looking at him, and then go all the way behind the tornado. And then grab Kevin Costner. They're out of there. And then someone's like, "Wait, where did Clark go?" And then later they're like, "What happened?" It's like, "I got him out. I got him out. It was a miracle. I got him out."
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
It's literally a chaotic situation that it's the most favorable situation for him to go do something. Whereas there's other times that, where he's where he surveys Clark and it's not a chaotic situation. He's still able to go save people. This is a perfect scenario for him to be like, I can literally get out of this situation right now, hide and run and go save him. But no, it's just
okay. Here's a question: did you like, since you didn't like the Man of Steel? Do you prefer Brett Singer's or was it
Bryan Singer?
Bryan Singer.
I will take the Quest for Peace over Man of Steel. Fuck that movie straight to hell.
Wow.
Okay, I hate the movie.
Quest for Peace. That's a bold move.
You're damn right it is. And if it offends any Snyder fans out there, that's what it's meant for. But yeah, I don't like Bryan Singer's Superman movie either. But I do think Brandon Routh at least feels a little more like Superman than Henry Cavill does, based on the writing of the character. And it's Superman Returns is literally just trying to be Christopher Reeve Superman anyway. I will say I'll give Bryan Singer is a substantially worse human being than Zack Snyder. I can admit that much, though. So I'll leave it there. But
cool.
yeah, Man of Steel is my worst. I think Man of Steel is the worst Superman movie ever made because it's not a Superman movie.
I like the scene where he's a kid and he's like in the closet and his like X-ray vision's going off and he doesn't know what's happening and stuff. I like those kinds of things that he was doing with it, but
yeah.
And I personally like the fight scenes because it's like Dragon Ball Z in like real life, pretty much.
That is exactly what it is. And like I said, the first 45 minutes of Man of Steel, I think are really good. I think there's a lot going on there with like him as the flashback scenes and the relationships that are developing and his parents. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. But
now, does anybody believe Gunn is going to do better?
I think he's going to do better. I just don't think enough people are going to care by the time he gets into it.
My problem with Gunn is he has a very too much of an over reliance on licensed music, and I'm worried how that's going to fit into a Superman movie.
That is very true. That is very true.
He always does it.
It became kind of obnoxious in Guardians 3, where it's like, okay, we get it. You really know your music. Just fucking ease off.
I like all three of his Guardians movies. And I liked Brightburn, which if you've seen Brightburn, that's a movie that's basically like a take on an evil Superman type thing. And I don't think Brightburn's a great movie, but what I like about it is that at least from my perspective anyway, the writing of that, it shows you that they understand the importance of Superman by showing you how evil Superman could be. It's almost like why I can appreciate what they do with Homelander at times, because it makes me appreciate what Superman is. But I just don't know how I feel about James Gunn moving forward with the DC stuff, because he is very like Guardians was not a franchise that had this massive following. So there was a lot of liberties he was able to take with those characters that he got away with. You can't do that with Superman. And if Superman's running around with like 70s and 80s music while he's flying, it's not going to work. So I'm
worried because he, like a lot of the projects that he has for the first DCU start like he has like an Amanda Waller show, but I think what's her name? Who played her in the original in Suicide Squad?
Was it Viola?
Her name escapes me.
No,
Viola Davis. There you go.
Yeah.
So like she's getting her own Waller show, but then she's still Waller, but it's not the same Waller from the DCEU. But then he has Peacemaker season 2, but Peacemaker season 1 is not canon to the DCU, but Peacemaker season 2 is. But it's the same characters playing Amanda Waller, and I'm just like, why didn't you just revamp all of this? Like, this is so confusing to me. And then
if I was a cynical man, I would say he wants to save the projects that personally matter to him because he already worked on them.
Yeah,
so essentially anything that's like Peacemaker related that's got his brother in it or his wife in it, you can pretty much guarantee.
Yeah, his brother's going to play Maxwell Lord in the DCU now, which is, if you don't know who that is, that was the villain in Wonder Woman 1984. That's who his brother's playing now, I guess.
So, just rehire Pedro Pascal. He just plays everybody anyway.
Pedro's always available.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal is basically the
new
like
Kevin
Bacon. Well, I was gonna say he's like the new Chris Pratt. Like Chris Pratt's too white and Christian, so they just cast Pedro Pascal. Where everybody was asking for Chris Pratt like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
I think the thing that makes him annoying is that I feel like he's often miscast in roles. You're never going to convince me that he was the guy to play Joel in Last of Us.
No,
you're just not.
No.
And it's not to say that he's a terrible actor or anything. He is good, but it's almost like just because he's flavor of the month, he gets cast in basically everything, even when it's not appropriate for him. and it starts to piss you off after a while because you just feel like he's getting in the way of actors who would have been Joel better anymore.
He won't be Joel for much longer.
Big Abby smash.
Anyway, let's tee off and do a couple more super chats here. David Lamplow, he also says, I feel war movies in general today can't be told without turning the soldier of the times into bad people under our modern standards. Well, it's like, I guess it's like that moral relativism. They seem to be doing this with the Acolyte, where it's like, there aren't bad guys anymore. There's only power and who gets to wield it.
Yep.
It's an interesting approach, I guess. Metal Face Rosie, what classic novel would you want a Muppet adaptation of? Animal Farm.
Lord of the Flies would be interesting.
Yeah, just watching them all murdering each other.
Yeah,
Piggy. Yeah, no.
He also says Balder in God of War was played by Jeremy Davis, who won an Emmy for his role on Justified. Hint, hint, drinker.
Yeah, he was great as Balder.
Yeah. God of War 2018 is better than Ragnarok. I know MauLer probably disagree with me, but that's okay.
That's the beauty of the internet.
Exactly. We can disagree, but still be friends. It's okay.
I love them both. But like the story has so many more payoffs in Ragnarok that are all built up as far as I'm concerned in 2018. But like I'm aware of a lot of the misgivings people have with Ragnarok, and it's fair. I'd pick either of them. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
He also says Kirk Hammett went to high school with Les Claypool from Primus.
Kirk Hammett's the guitarist for Metallica, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's just giving us all kinds of like celebrity connections here. LC Le Pen, Invincible Season 2 seems to have lost all the hype around it. With mid-season breaks and the binge model, why do these shows keep shooting themselves in the foot? I don't know. Yeah, like nobody seems to be talking about Invincible anymore, and it's a shame because Season 1 made a real splash. It was good. I liked it.
I mean, I'm watching it. I haven't read Invincible. I've done that on purpose with the show because I don't want to know. It's the same thing with The Boys. I heard that The Boys comic is not very good, but the show's better. I can't confirm that because I haven't read it. But the same thing. I won't read The Boys. I just want to watch it. So I don't know what happens pretty much. And
how is the same thing? Invincible Season 2's quality? Is it maintained?
I wouldn't say it's as good as the first season. I think the first season was better so far. Season 2 though, they're setting up, unfortunately, the whole multiverse thing, which is kind of eye rolling, but it's pretty. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. I would say Invincible Season 1 was like an 8 or a 9 in terms of quality comparatively. I would say Season 2 is kind of like, especially in the beginning, like the first 2 episodes, you're kind of like, oh, this is not that great, and then it gets better, and now it's like pretty good. I haven't seen the newest one though; it just came out, I think, yesterday. I have to watch it still, but yeah.
Elsie Le Pen says, MauLer, thank Wolf for a wonderful Q&A stream on the Highlights channel. Also, his upload response to the Jacob Acolyte debacle was chef's kiss.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, he had a good time doing it. It's the first stream that he has done in 5 years. So,
wow.
I think, anyway.
That is pretty cool. Metal Face Rosie, could you imagine a movie that is structured like From Dusk Till Dawn that is technically an inconsistent film but still objectively good? Yeah, for sure. I mean, Predator is an example of that, where you start with one genre, then you segue into another, and then you kind of transition into a third one by the end of the film. So you can definitely do a swerve.
I'd say to an extent, Shaun of the Dead. That film goes from being much more chill and funny to much more serious at certain points. Like it almost flips by the time you get to the latter portions of the film.
I'll just say, watching From Dusk Till Dawn as a kid, probably shouldn't have watched it as a kid, but I did. When the vampires show up and I didn't know about it, that was awesome. I really like that kind of stuff. That's cool.
Well, it's great because it's just so it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it just
then
the movie just flips into full on batshit crazy mode.
What's her name? The Spanish lady,
Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek.
Yeah. It's Selena Gomez.
Well, that was her finest hour, I think, on movies.
My bad.
John Gates says, given MauLer's recent playthroughs of the Arkham games, what's everyone's familiarity with the DC animated universe of the 90s and 2000s? Some of the best character work for that IP, in my opinion.
Talking about the animated movies? Is that what he's asking?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a long time since I watched a lot of the animated movies, but Under the Red Hood was my favorite. Batman Under the Red Hood is fantastic. I like a lot of them. Year One is really good. The Dark Knight Returns is good. But it's been a while. But Under the Red Hood was my favorite from back when I watched a lot of those.
I really liked Batman Beyond. I really liked. I mean, I don't know if it's not really a spoiler, I guess, right? But like just the way like how Batman Beyond as the character is like technically born and created and like why he exists. I thought that was really interesting. I don't want to ruin it in case someone hasn't watched it, but it's really interesting how it's not just like he's just some random person. Like the way Batman Beyond comes to be, and what I loved about that and that show, especially in the story, is that what Batman Beyond is like. That's what Miles Morales should have been, right? Like he's Batman, okay, but he has his own villains and everything, and his own story and everything. And I wish Miles had that, but he doesn't. He only has like the Prowler, pretty much, and that's it. So. But Batman Beyond's great. Like seriously,
you know what's sad about that is I think if someone was to broadly describe Batman Beyond and it was releasing today as a new idea, a lot of us would be like, "Ugh."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but obviously they could prove you wrong because he has a bunch of villains that are like his own. And that's what I think. Like, that's what they always say, right?
Execution
heroes only as good as its villains.
Could be really, really strong. And besides, people actually want Michael Keaton to get in there before it's too late,
It wounds me because Rocksteady was apparently going to make a Batman Beyond-esque game after Arkham Knight, and then they canceled it. That's just too bad.
Ooh.
It had like old Harley Quinn, and there was like Black Mask's daughter was in it and stuff, and she was the new Black Mask and all this. And there was like an old Bruce Wayne with a big white beard and the Batman mask on and everything. It was, you look at the concept art; it's on the internet.
MauLer, you did a recent playthrough of the Arkham games.
I did City and I did Arkham Asylum City, completed City recently. I'd done them both previously in my life, but recently redid them. I'm going to do hopefully Night and Origins soon.
What do you prefer out of Asylum and City?
Ended up, I think I said before I started them, because I had a super chat about it, and I was like, I'm not actually sure which I prefer, but we'll find out once I completed both, and I ended up siding with Asylum.
Hey, nice.
I think City is a brilliant sequel, and they did an excellent job expanding it, but I actually think I way prefer the style and atmosphere and the sort of linear.
Yeah, I went back and beat those two this year.
Yeah, I think City. I personally think City's probably the better overall experience and the better but I prefer Asylum because I like the smaller, contained environments. That's for me. The Scarecrow moment in Asylum still is one of the most mind blowing moments. I had no idea what the hell was going on the first time. I thought I was tripping on something or something. and I've never done drugs or alcohol in my life. And I'm like, was there something in my McDonald's double cheeseburger? Like, what the hell is going on? It fucked with my head. And
are you talking about the moment where the game kind of glitches?
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes back to the beginning. Oh, it's so good.
Well, honestly, I feel like that's one of the things City's kind of missing. I think Scarecrow should always be in a Batman game. He offers so many fight. You have the Ra's al Ghul stuff, right, where they can mess with your mind, but you get Scarecrow references, and then of course I think he's gonna. I haven't played him, but he's pretty significant in either Night or Origins, right? Scarecrow.
Night. He's technically the main villain in Night.
I didn't like Night. I need to probably try it again, but I gave up on Night. I didn't like Night.
But the few and far between sequences of Scarecrow and Asylum are heavily memorable. They are really fucking good.
Mm-hmm. I love how you take out Bane in that game. It's like, no, Bane, I break you, and then the Batman just
so good.
Yeah,
I love that game.
My chat were like, I think he's dead. It's like, no, he's fine. It's Bane.
No, he shows up in City.
Yeah, no, well,
like the Titan containers.
I like this super chat here. This came out of nowhere from Metal Face Rosie. Being sexually attracted to Tim Curry as Darkness in Legend doesn't make you gay; it makes you alive. I mean, he was swole as fuck in that movie, so fair enough. M8566 says GoldenEye Happy Hour when? Movie and game, of course. I would happily talk about GoldenEye. It's a great movie. It's a golden era of Bond. Canada Plus says, Hail panel, anybody watching Invincible Season 2? Yeah, I'm just being asked about that. I think Endymion's the only one who's watching it at the moment.
It's okay. It's pretty good. My girlfriend likes it too. I got her to watch Season 1 and she loved it, and now we're watching Season 2, so yeah.
And M8566 says, Hey MauLer, glad I was able to trigger your Wesley-tisms. The first episode where Alexis Denisov really blew me away was Billy. He's terrifying.
Not only that, this is just going to be deep cut for Angel fans, but Spin the Bottle, where the characters get reverted back to whoever they were when they were much younger, and he slips right back into the Wesley from season 3 easily, and it really helps you understand the contrast between how much he's changed over the years. And I just love the actor as well. He does such a fucking good job.
Nice. And Stephen Bobo says, "Hey Drinker, I'm loving the new game channel. I'm already subscribed to it. Can't wait for your Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review." Yes, indeed. I guess I should try and complete the game before I review it, but I've been loving it so far. It's been great fun. It's an absolute nostalgia trip for me, and I think they've done a really good job with it.
Just don't platinum it, because you'll go insane like I am.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I have got nowhere near the skill.
153 hours in right now. Almost there.
Yeah. Fuck that. Yeah. I'll be dead by then. But yeah, I know we're a few of the guys on the panel are running a bit short on time. Jeremy and Endymion, I think you both have to.
Yeah, I've got another stream tonight, so
we got a birthday dinner.
Yeah,
real life stuff. I'm sorry.
I have something very important in about an hour. I've got to be. It's for democracy. Spoilers.
Okay.
Got to
manage democracy.
Yeah, let's go. It's been a while. I haven't played Helldivers in about a week and a half because I've been kind of relocating everything from Orlando back to Pensacola here. But yeah, I'm really excited to play some Helldivers. So. But it was great to be on with you guys. I appreciate it. It's always nice to have MauLer mad at me because of my God of War take. Always happy for that. But yeah, Endymion, it's good to meet you, man. We'll have to get you on sometime. And George,
I'm mad at everyone, okay? Not just
I know. George, good talking to you. And Drinker, appreciate you, man. So
chat, you, man.
The MVP as always. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Have a good night.
Cheers, bud.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap it up there, I think, because we've been going for a fair old while tonight. I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for being super generous with all the super chats here. You've really outdone yourselves. Obviously, we couldn't get through them all, but we will catch up with them as we always do. And thank you to my mods for doing the excellent work that they always do. I appreciate you guys. You've been modding the chat great, and you've been sharing everyone's links to everyone's channels. So I appreciate you guys doing all that for us. And thank you to my panel for coming in tonight. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun.
As always. But yeah, for now, at least, that's all we got. So go away now.
Bye.
Bye.